Chapter 1659. The rumors that the ravenous wolf star knew might not all be true. However, no matter what, Liu was safe. This trip had not been in vain. Swoosh! While the women were kneeling, Suyu used his space magic to teleport Liu over. During the teleportation process, Suyu felt that the space transfer was exceptionally difficult, very different from the past. Fortunately, he managed to bring Liu over. With a sizzling sound, a space vortex appeared in front of Suyu. Liu, who was at a loss, fell out of it. Suyu grabbed her back with his right hand, ready to take her away immediately. The moment his hand touched her, Suyu felt extremely heavy, as if hundreds of stars were in his hand. Without realizing it, Suyu's body suddenly fell with Liu. Law of weightlessness. Suyu clenched his fist and created the law of weightlessness. Everything within 3 feet of him lost gravity. Only then was he able to stop his fall and hold Liu back. When he looked at Liu carefully, he was surprised to find that her right hand was still holding the ice coffin. This thing was so heavy that it made one's hair stand on end. Who is it? A shrill roar suddenly erupted from the bottom of the lake. The oppressive pressure shook one's soul. Suyu's body shook violently, and he could not help but be shocked. This deterrent power far exceeded that of the Silver Overlord. Crash! The water tumbled violently, and huge bubbles emerged from the surface, bursting rapidly. It seemed that something powerful was about to appear. Before he could explore what was in the ice coffin, Suyu kicked the ice coffin, separating it from Liu. However, not only did that not happen, but Suyu's foot, which was in contact with the ice coffin, fused with it the moment it touched the coffin. It felt as if Suyu had become a part of the ice coffin. Shocked, Suyu did not dare to hesitate. He maintained the law of weightlessness and quickly retreated with Liu. Soon, he arrived at the entrance. At the same time, there was an earth-shattering movement in the distant ice lake, and a terrifying pressure came crashing down. Suyu immediately leaped out of the space without thinking. At that moment, an ancient black sword filled with the smell of death pierced through the place where Suyu was. Before the ancient sword arrived, the sword energy came out. Suyu, who was in the middle of teleportation, was injured by the sword energy. His body was rapidly aging at a speed visible to the naked eye. Undying heart. Suyu shouted in a low voice at the critical moment. Boundless green life force filled his body and rapidly healed his aging body. Dragon of Death. As Suyu spoke, a small black dragon flew out of his palm. It opened its mouth and sucked in all the deathly energy in Suyu's body. Only then did Suyu manage to escape the calamity. Back in the inn, Suyu still had lingering fears. That powerful blow was comparable to the star summoned by the ravenous wolf star. This person's strength was definitely not inferior to the ravenous wolf star. At this point, it could already be confirmed that the so-called Snow Shadow Gate was definitely not as simple as it appeared on the surface. With a thought, Suyu teleported out of the inn and said, "Let's go quickly." The ravenous wolf star's senses were far superior to Suyu's. So, before Suyu had even returned to the inn, the ravenous wolf star had already sensed the extremely powerful death sword energy. As strong as he was, he still felt the threat of death. "I'll take you away." The ravenous wolf star grabbed Suyu, Liu, and the strangely heavy ice coffin easily. Then, with a single step, he covered an immeasurable distance. All that was left was a residual shadow. Even if Suyu used the profound meaning of the yin-yang wings of Supreme Pole, he would still be far inferior to such an agile teleportation technique. Almost as soon as they left, the pitch-black ancient sword teleported to the place where the ravenous wolf star had disappeared. After the ancient sword appeared for a while, a blue-robed youth stepped lightly on the ancient sword. He appeared without a sound, and there was not the slightest spatial fluctuation around him. He had appeared like a ghost. Just this kind of elusive movement technique was enough to make people feel uneasy. What was even more frightening was that the deathly energy rolling around his body was terrifyingly thick. It felt as if the corpses of trillions of living beings had piled up. The blue-robed youth's blue eyes were like two ghostly flames in the darkness, flickering faintly. He was hit by my death sword energy, but he is still safe and sound. Interesting. It is not surprising that the queen is interested in him. After saying this, the blue-robed middle-aged man did not chase after them. Instead, he turned the ancient sword around and returned to the ice lake. It was as if he had forgotten about the ice coffin. The greedy wolf star brought them to a safe place. After confirming that no one was chasing them, it stopped. Its eyes were solemn as it fell into deep thought. Why is it like this? According to my understanding, those who abduct the young elites from all over the world are all from small and insignificant forces. Why would a peerless expert suddenly appear? He couldn't understand. Suyu said, "Shouldn't we deal with this ice coffin first?" His expression was solemn as he stared at the strange ice coffin. He had tried, but no matter if it was divine power or if he secretly used the power of space, it was of no use. With a ferocious look in his eyes, Suyu held two of his fingers together as a sword, intending to cut off his right leg, which had fused with the ice coffin. "No," Liu said anxiously. "Please don't." "Why?" Suyu didn't have time to reminisce with her. Liu said, "The last person who carried the ice coffin also severed his own limbs. In the end, he was instantly sucked into the ice coffin and never appeared again." Inside the ice coffin, Suyu activated his transparent eye and observed the situation in the ice coffin carefully. At first, it was just a blur as an extremely powerful, isolating force interfered with Suyu's probing. However, as Suyu's soul energy gradually grew stronger, his transparent eye was no longer what it used to be. Extreme transparent eye. A pitch black dot appeared in Suyu's pale eyes, like a steel needle. The pitch black dot of light suddenly flashed, and the interference of the transparent eye was forcibly pierced through. The scene inside the ice coffin was clearly reflected in his eyes. In the ice coffin lay a red-clothed female corpse. She was dressed in a bright red robe embroidered with golden phoenixes, and on her head was a jade crown that belonged to an ancient person. Her facial features were exquisite and absolutely beautiful. Her tightly shut eyes flickered like two rays of red clouds. Her red lips were as beautiful as blood. Her skin was as white as the moon and as smooth as cream. At first glance, she was extremely seductive. Even with Suyu's composure, he couldn't help but be distracted for a moment. Fortunately, Suyu woke up in time. He bit the tip of his tongue, and the sharp pain stimulated his sea of soul, allowing him to forcibly extract his soul from the ice coffin. What an evil female corpse! Suyu was shocked. Staring at the ice coffin, Suyu took out the beauty under the moonlight and tried to pry open the ice coffin. The Emperor-level divine weapon, the beauty under the moonlight, had an extremely sharp blade. The blade, which was as thin as a cicada's wing, easily entered the ice coffin through the thin crack. Then, Suyu exerted force with his 5 fingers and lifted the ice coffin. Creak! The ice coffin moved slightly in response. However, at this moment, the ravenous wolf star, who was in deep thought, sensed something. His expression changed abruptly, and he shouted, "Stop it!" As he spoke, an incomparably powerful divine power gushed out of him, suppressing the ice coffin. However, it was a step too late. An extremely violent cold air sprayed out of the ice coffin. The cold air was astonishing. Suyu had never seen anything like it in his life, although it was only a faint trace, as thin as a hair. However, it froze a trace of nothingness around the ice coffin. The crack in the nothingness was only the length of a thumb, thinner than a hair. However, it happened to pass through the palm of the ravenous wolf star. As strong as he was, his body could be said to be powerful enough to shake the heavens and the earth. However, it was easily crushed into pieces by the power of nothingness like tofu. Sizzle, sizzle. After a long time, the weak power of nothingness gradually dissipated. However, everyone present broke out in a cold sweat due to the strange appearance of the terrifying cold chi. The moat outside the palace was filled with ice crystals that never melted. The cold air that would occasionally erupt from the lake was the terrible cold air that could break through the nothingness. That description was exactly the same as the cold air in front of them. Crack! Suddenly, Suyu's palm lightened. It was the beauty under the moon in his palm that broke inch by inch like an ice sculpture. The Emperor-level divine weapon had also turned into broken ice in the cold air that had just leaked. Suyu couldn't help but feel sorry. This sword had accompanied him for so many days, but it was destroyed in the end. However, the ravenous wolf star said with lingering fear, "You should be glad that the cold air that leaked just now only sprayed on the sword, not on you. Otherwise, the consequences would be unpredictable." Looking at the ice coffin, Suyu's expression became solemn again. Was there no way to deal with the ice coffin? Would his right leg always be connected to the ice coffin? At this moment, the ice coffin suddenly trembled. Liu let out a cry, and both her hands were removed from the ice coffin. However, Suyu was still tightly connected to the ice coffin. With that, the ice coffin trembled again and stood up. The ravenous wolf star was scared out of his wits. Without thinking, he turned around and fled, quickly distancing himself from Suyu. His vow to protect Suyu had been thrown out of his mind. Suyu was also shocked. Even if the ice coffin sprayed just a little more cold air, it would be enough to destroy Suyu. Creak, creak. The ice coffin stood for a long time, showing no signs of opening. Suyu made up his mind and teleported away. The terrifying thing was that the ice coffin followed him like a shadow and pressed down on Suyu's back with a thud. The incomparable weight suddenly made Suyu breathless. He fell out of the space teleportation and was pressed into the depths of the earth. Liu ran over in a panic, her face full of panic. "Shuiyu, are you okay?" Creak. Suyu climbed up from the earth with great difficulty. He used almost all his strength to support himself on the ground. Because he used too much strength, the blue veins on his forehead were protruding, and it was extremely difficult for him to speak. "Why don't I try to press you down?" Liu blushed slightly and helped Suyu sit up apologetically. However, as soon as he sat up, the whole ground caved in again. The ice coffin was too heavy. Looking behind him, Suyu smiled bitterly. The whole ice coffin was stuck to his back, as if it had grown out of Suyu's body. "Didn't I just take a look at your dead body? Is it necessary to be so ruthless?" Suyu felt the deep malice from the ice coffin. It had let Liu go, but only stuck to Suyu. Suyu would never believe that the ice coffin did not do this on purpose. Suyu sighed. Now that he was carrying the ice coffin on his back, it was difficult for him to walk, let alone his strength. Strangely, the ice coffin seemed to know what Suyu was thinking. The heavy ice coffin was more than half as light as before. Suyu was shocked, followed by a bone-chilling fear. The ice coffin was alive. To be precise, it was the evil female corpse in the ice coffin. She had a consciousness. Thinking of this, Suyu could not help but shudder. Chapter 1660. If she wanted to kill Suyu, just a little bit of the horrifying cold energy in the ice coffin would be enough to doom Suyu eternally. But why was she pressing on Suyu's back? Was she toying with Suyu? At this moment, Suyu had the urge to swear. Wouldn't it be better to just lie in the ice coffin if he died? Why did she have to come out? The ice coffin on his back suddenly regained its weight. Suyu was caught off guard and was pressed into the ground again. Suyu was amused and annoyed at the same time. He really didn't know how he had attracted the attention of the dead woman. "If you can find out what I'm thinking, please give me some hints. What do you want?" Suyu was most worried about the fact that he had used the rules when no one was looking. Perhaps the ice coffin would have been discovered then. If it wanted it, what should he do? Drip. Transparent ice crystals suddenly dripped from the ice coffin and melted into a line of tiny words on the ground. "Sleep with me." Suyu was petrified. Liu was startled. She said word by word, "Sleep with me." She looked at Suyu in surprise and said, "What is in the ice coffin? Why do you want to sleep with me?" At this moment, Suyu seemed to hear the sound of his heart breaking. Sleep with a dead woman. His lips trembled slightly. He didn't know whether it was out of disgust or anger. "Shuiyu, tell me, what is in the ice coffin?" Liu asked curiously, staring at Suyu without blinking. Suyu waved his hand with difficulty. His voice was low and hoarse. "Don't ask, or I'll kill myself." Drip. Another ice crystal dripped from the ice coffin and melted into a line of tiny words. "I fell in love with you at first sight. Be my man." Suyu's face turned purple. He stood up without a word and said with a straight face, "Let's go." "Ignore it." Liu nodded blankly. She noticed that the melted words on the ground had changed. She said, "If you don't obey me, I'll follow you like a haunting ghost." Suyu's face turned from purple to livid. He turned to look at the ice coffin on his back. "Is there any difference between you and a haunting ghost?" Suyu's face sank. He asked Liu, "Can you tell me what's going on under the ice lake? Why are you carrying an ice coffin?" A bitter smile appeared on Liu's face. "I can't see what's under the lake at all. The bottom of the lake is filled with bone-chilling, mysterious ice crystals. However, I can vaguely feel an altar. I don't know anything else." As for the ice coffin, Liu's wry smile became even deeper. "If it wasn't for the ice coffin, I'm afraid I would have already been thrown into the bottom of that frozen lake, never to return, just like by Hua Fairy. No wonder that space didn't sense by Hua Fairy. It turns out she was already thrown into the frozen lake. No one knows if she's alive or dead. Originally, I was also going to sink to the bottom of the lake, but at the last moment, I was asked by a man with an aura of death to hold an ice coffin. That's how I escaped." Was it that powerful creature that was covered in death, aura? The snow sea of the northern region was indeed full of mysteries. Suyu felt a little helpless, as he was unable to obtain any relevant information from Liu. It seemed that he would not be able to get rid of the ice coffin for a while. Fortunately, it did not have any malicious intentions at the moment. Once he found a way to escape, he would deal with the female corpse in the ice coffin. Whoosh! After the greedy wolf star confirmed that it was safe, it returned. He stared at the ice coffin with fear, a lingering fear in his heart. Suyu smiled faintly. "Your movement technique is marvelous. It's superb." The greedy wolf star knew that Suyu was mocking him for abandoning Suyu and escaping alone, and said awkwardly, "The ice coffin was too strange. I couldn't react in time. It won't happen next time." "Forget it. You have no obligation to save me anyway," Suyu said. The greedy wolf star was uneasy and said, "Young master, please rest assured, a similar situation will not happen next time." Suyu nodded nonchalantly, but in his heart, he was slightly shaking his head. This person was unreliable. "Young master, what's your next plan?" He looked at the ice coffin in awe and asked. Suyu pondered for a moment, then said, "I need a secret room that is extremely secretive and highly protected. No overlord strong men would be able to explore or barge in." The greedy wolf star was in a difficult position. As long as the restrictions were of a high enough level, even the crystal overlord would find it difficult to explore. But to force his way in, apart from the places where the snow dragon divine warrior had personally set up restrictions, no matter how many protective measures there were, as long as he wanted to, he could break through at any time and force his way in. Such a place was not easy to find. "I know a place," Liu suddenly said from the side. "Oh, tell me about it," Suyu said. The greedy wolf star was also surprised. If he didn't know, how did Liu know? "The dazzling crystal palace," Liu said. The greedy wolf star's expression changed. "That place is indeed indestructible. Unless the snow dragon divine warrior himself arrives, even a crystal overlord like me can't do anything about it." "But," he looked at Liu, "you only know one thing, not the other. Not everyone is qualified to enter the dazzling crystal palace. It only receives distinguished guests. No matter how powerful you are, without a corresponding background, you can't enter." "Including you?" Suyu asked. The greedy wolf star nodded. "Yes, including me. Even the crystal overlord could not enter. The dazzling crystal palace's principles were really strong. People like you and I, who left the starry pavilion, are not qualified to enter." Tick-tock, a few drops of ice suddenly dripped from the ice coffin, melting into an ice token on the ground. A clear coffin pattern was carved on it. Everyone was stunned. Did the ice coffin give them identity tokens? Suyu picked up the ice token and thought for a moment. He came to the dazzling crystal palace with the attitude of giving it a try. The dazzling crystal palace was next to the cavern of the snow dragon divine warrior. It was said that it was built by the snow dragon divine warrior himself. The entire dazzling crystal palace was forged with 10,000-year-old mysterious ice crystals. It was indestructible from the inside out. Guests from all over stayed in it, and it was extremely safe. At the entrance of the dazzling Crystal Palace, there was a puppet that automatically identified the identities of the various forces. Suyu saw with his own eyes that the leader of an unknown force put his own token into the mouth of the puppet. The puppet took the initiative to make way for them, allowing them to enter the dazzling Crystal Palace. Holding the ice token, Suyu was about to step forward when he suddenly felt a sharp blade approaching. Turning his head to look, he saw a magnificent guard of honor walking over in a grandiose manner. The young man at the front was the most eye-catching. He was riding a giant beast that looked like a dragon, but was not. He carried a giant dragon head blade on his back, and the shadow of the blade appeared behind him. Standing on the head of the giant beast, he was like a peerless, sharp blade. What surprised Suyu even more was that there was another person standing on the giant beast's head. It was none other than Lanyu from the Star Pavilion. She enjoyed the admiring gazes of the passers-by very much. Even though there was a faint smile on her face, the faintly discernible arrogance was clearly visible. Why is she here? Suyu was confused. Was there such a person in the Star Pavilion? Get out of the way. That's the successor of the Emperor Killer, the Heartless Saber Emperor. When the Ravenous Wolf Star noticed the gigantic beast youth, his face changed, and he quickly pulled Suyu and Liu away. The successor of a martial artist. Suyu was slightly surprised. The three great monarchs of the Sea of Constellations. The Eastern Sea's Purple Dream Sovereign, the Northern Sea's Snow Dragon Sovereign, the Southern Sea's Slaughter Sovereign. Every descendant of an emperor undoubtedly possessed unparalleled divine arts that far surpassed ordinary people. The Heartless Saber Monarch was naturally no exception. Even the powerful Ravenous Wolf Star was unwilling to provoke them. However, Suyu had discovered Lanyu, and Lanyu had discovered Suyu. When she saw him from afar, her eyes lit up. The news that the chief pavilion master of the three great pavilion masters had appeared for Shui Yu had spread far and wide. Although apart from them, no one knew the reason behind it. However, it was obvious that Shui Yu had the value to attract the attention of the big shots of the Star Pavilion. Could it be because of Shui Yu's amazing talent? Lanyu, who had seen Suyu, a level 3 Cavern World Venerable, kill 10 level 1 Cavern World Venerable corpse-loving dogs with a single sword strike, was exceptionally certain that it had something to do with it. She flew over the head of the gigantic beast and walked over happily. Brother Shui, the Star Pavilion is looking for you. Why are you here? Ravenous Wolf Starguard, why are you with Brother Shui? Lanyu suddenly became vigilant, standing with Shui Yu to show her stance. It seemed that she still did not know that the Ravenous Wolf Star had betrayed the Star Pavilion. Suyu said, "The Ravenous Wolf Star has come to find me on the orders of the faction. He has no ill intentions, so don't worry." He looked at the slowly approaching giant beast and said, "Are you the only one from the Star Pavilion who came?" "No. The 10 teams from the Star Pavilion who participated in the ancient Dream Altar have already entered the mysterious Crystal Palace. I met the Heartless Saber Emperor halfway, so I was just a step behind them." At the mention of the Heartless Saber Emperor, Lanyu carefully observed Suyu's eyes, hoping to see any feelings of inferiority or nervousness in his eyes. Unfortunately, Suyu's face was calm. He nodded and said, "Oh, you go first. Meet up with the Star Pavilion as soon as possible." Lanyu was secretly disappointed, but her mood soon improved. She thought to herself, "It doesn't matter. Even if Shui Yu doesn't fall at my feet, the Sha Di's second son, the Heartless Saber Emperor, has already fallen. With the protection of the Saber Emperor, the ancient Dream Altar will be safe. It doesn't matter whether Shui Yu is here or not. Then I'll go first." Lanyu laughed delicately and cast a shy look at the Heartless Saber Emperor. She took out her token and entered the mysterious Crystal Palace. Suyu said indifferently, "Let's go in too." He took out the ice token and was about to insert it into the puppet's mouth. All of a sudden, a sharp blade, energy, slashed down from above. Suyu's senses were amazing. Even without the Ravenous Wolf Star's reminder, he could sense it. With a light tap of his toes, he pulled Liu away with him and used space magic to move away. Creak! An ancient tree behind him was split into two by the sword energy. The surface of the cut was smooth, like natural jade. The meridians in the ancient tree were still transporting tree sap without anyone noticing. If a living creature were to be struck, even a silver overlord would be killed with a single stroke. Such a ruthless attack. Suyu looked sideways and saw the heartless saber emperor on the head of the giant beast. There was a trace of blade energy left on his fingertips. He looked arrogant and looked down at Suyu, like a person of high status looking at a commoner. He snorted coldly. I don't care who you are or what your identity is. I've taken a fancy to Lanyu. Stay away from her in the future. If you come any closer, kill. No, pardon. When he finished speaking, he led the guards of honor and surged forward, pushing Suyu and the others away. The puppet didn't even need to verify their identities and let them pass. Chapter 1661. Suyu even dared to provoke the Pathmaster. What could the son of the divine warrior of heaven and earth do to him? He was not interested in Lanyu and had no intention of competing with her. However, if the other party insisted on seeking death, Suyu would not be lenient. Although he is overbearing, he has the qualifications to be overbearing. Liu somewhat detested the heartless Saber Emperor's character. However, objectively speaking, he had the qualifications to say those words. The ravenous wolf star cautiously observed Suyu's expression, then advised him, "Young master, there are plenty of fish in the sea, so why do you have to create unnecessary trouble for Lanyu? A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him." He was also beating around the bush, advising Suyu to be patient. It could be seen from this that he was afraid of the emotionless Saber Emperor. "Understand. Let's go inside first," Suyu said. He had a more important matter to attend to. Using the ice token, they had indeed successfully entered the profound crystal palace without any obstruction. Suyu stared at the coffin carved on the ice token and could not help but ponder. Coffin pattern, what kind of force was that? "Young master, look, there's a coffin symbol," Greedy Wolf Star said. Following his line of sight, the interior of the profound crystal palace was a paradise with beautiful mountains and beautiful sceneries. The mountains were majestic and the scenery was beautiful. Mountains rose from the ground and pierced through the entire world like bamboo shoots. These 4 mountains were majestic and towered above all the other mountains. It was as if they reigned supreme over all the other mountains and were exceptionally outstanding. The strangest thing was that every mountain had an extremely eye-catching symbol. For example, the Star Pavilion's star diagram, the Killing Sovereign's blade diagram, the Northern Region Snow Sea's snow dragon diagram, the Purple Dream Sovereign's purple bamboo diagram, etc. What shocked Suyu was that among the 5 mountains, there was one whose symbol was a coffin. Liu blinked her pretty eyes and said, "Unbelievable. The force that the coffin represents is actually able to occupy a large mountain all by themselves. It's on par with the forces of the 3 monarchs of the Sea of Constellations." The origin of the female corpse in the ice coffin was indeed terrifying. The scariest thing was that they had never heard of such a powerful force. After thinking for a while, Suyu stared at the neighboring mountain of the Starry Pavilion and said, "Let's hide our tracks." He did not want to meet the people from the Star Pavilion for the time being. The Greedy Wolf Star was the most agreeable. It immediately cast a divine spell and changed its appearance. Unless someone stronger than him personally examined him, no one would be able to see his true appearance. "I don't think so." Liu smiled lightly. Suyu shrugged his shoulders and concealed his aura. Then, he used the divine path of disguise to change his appearance. The 3 of them landed on the mountain peak. On the peak of the mountain, there was a small courtyard, which was obviously prepared for distinguished guests. The small courtyard was surrounded by floating ice crystals that looked like scales that protected the small courtyard tightly. The mysterious ice crystal was indestructible. Coupled with the hidden divine warrior of heaven and earth defensive restriction, no mysterious crystal overlord would have the ability to break through. He took out the ice token, and the mystic ice crystals automatically dispersed. Suyu and the other 2 quickly entered. The small commotion here immediately attracted the attention of the 3 peaks. On the mountain where the Star Pavilion was located, 9 pavilion masters, 10 pavilion branch masters, and members were listening to the lecture of a woman shrouded in smoke. Everyone, including the 9 cabinet chiefs, showed deep respect for him. Tomorrow is the birthday of the Snow Dragon Emperor. All of you should prepare a present to show your sincerity, the woman said. We will obey the pavilion master's orders. This person was a pavilion venerable. Suddenly, the woman's expression changed. She, who had been sitting cross-legged, seemed to have sensed something and disappeared. When she reappeared, she was outside the mountain where Su Yu was. Her expression was solemn, staring at the small courtyard without blinking. Swish, swish! At the same time, 2 powerful auras flashed. One was a young man carrying a sword from the killing enemy mountain. He had an extremely long sword on his back. His whole person was like a peerless sword, giving off a sense of danger. His face was 50% similar to that of the merciless Saber Emperor. The other was a woman dressed in purple from the Snow Dragon Emperor's mountain. Her whole body was surrounded by frost. Her jade-like face was as beautiful as an ice sculpture. She was breathtaking. However, her cultivation was extremely high, surpassing most of the so-called heaven rulers of this era. The 3 of them stared at the mountain that was the symbol of the coffin. The woman's tone was calm. I didn't expect the ancient corpse sect to reappear in the world. Hearing these 3 words, the young man carrying a sword and the woman in purple looked solemn. Traces of fear filled their faces. In the sea of constellations today, perhaps only a few people knew about the ancient corpse sect. However, for the ancient forces that had existed for many years, the ancient corpse sect was a nightmare that they could not get rid of. This was especially true for the Star Pavilion. Many years ago, an ancient meteor fell into the sea of constellations. This matter shook the sea of constellations. The Killing Emperor and the Purple Dream Divine Emperor also alarmed the Star Pavilion. The Star Pavilion sent their strong men to investigate the ancient star. Everyone knew the consequences. Out of the 8 pavilion masters who went, 7 were killed. The Star Pavilion suffered a great loss overnight. However, what the world did not know was that the 2 Emperor forces had also suffered unprecedented losses. That ancient star did not just fall. It also brought a group of terrifying creatures with it. The Corpse Clan, the ancient star collided violently, and 3 ancient coffins fell from it. In the coffins were 3 kings of the Corpse Clan. Later generations called them the 3 Great Corpse Kings. After they woke up, they opened the coffins. The first thing they did was to massacre the nearby creatures. All the prey that they targeted had their essence sucked dry. In just a few days, thousands of small forces like the Sword Pavilion in the 2 seas were wiped out. Their terror was not limited to this. They not only sucked the essence of living creatures, but the living creatures they sucked would also wake up the next day and become the Corpse Clan. Then, they led the transformed Corpse Clan to attack the next force. Just like that, in just 3 months, almost half of the 2 seas were occupied by the Corpse Clan. Just like that, the Killing Emperor and the Purple Dream Divine Emperor were finally alarmed. They united the creatures of the 2 seas to fight the Corpse Clan. The process was extremely desperate. The Sea Alliance was losing against the Corpse Clan, because if the Alliance members who died on the battlefield were not dealt with properly, they would automatically become Corpse Clan members the next day and help the Corpse Clan kill them. The Alliance was on the verge of destruction. In the end, the Star Pavilion's chief pavilion master personally took action. With the power of one person, he performed the sacred Sanskrit art of creation and purified all the transformed Corpse Clan members, returning them to dust. Just like that, the Alliance was able to resolve the huge crisis. However, the first corpse of the 3 Corpse Kings, the founding sovereign corpse, absorbed too much of the essence of living creatures. At the crucial moment, he broke through the shackles and reached the level of an Emperor Corpse. The Emperor Corpse was the highest form of the Corpse Clan. It was immortal. No divine ability or art could destroy the Emperor Corpse. The Star Pavilion's chief pavilion master was unfathomable. He fought with the emperor corpse for 3 days and 3 nights, stirring up the entire sea of constellations and disturbing the laws of the great Tao. But still, he could not defeat it. In the end, both sides reached a compromise. The emperor corpse sank to the extreme north ice plains of the Sea of Constellations, never to awaken again. The condition was that the Sea of Constellations alliance would give up on attacking the Corpse Clan and treat the Corpse Clan as a member of the Sea of Constellations. The Corpse Clan would also not harm the human realm. From then on, an unknown sect appeared in the Sea of Constellations, the Ancient Corpse Sect. They were extremely low-key. For tens of thousands of years, they never appeared in the human realm. Furthermore, they only accepted a few disciples in each generation. Until now, there were less than 10 disciples. The Emperor Corpse fell into eternal slumber. The other 2 Corpse Kings also hid themselves. Both sides lived in peace for many years. Until today, when the Ancient Corpse Sect reappeared in the human realm. Thinking back to the terrifying scene from tens of thousands of years ago, the 3 shuddered. The sword-bearing youth gazed deeply at the house. After pondering for a long time, he mustered his courage and cupped his fists. I am the disciple of the Emperor Killer, the Limitless Sword Saint. May I ask which Corpse King are you the disciple of? The Limitless Sword Saint and the Merciless Saber Emperor were the 2 great disciples of the Emperor Killer. The cold lady in purple said sternly, I am the disciple of the Snow Dragon Emperor, Empress Sue. I sincerely request that you show yourself, my friend from the Ancient Corpse Sect. At this moment, Suyu had no idea that he had become a disciple of the Ancient Corpse Sect. After he entered the house, the first thing he did was enter the secret chamber. The secret chamber was also made of dark ice crystals. It was covered with an extremely powerful isolation seal. Even if the Emperor himself were to descend, it would be as difficult as ascending to heaven to investigate the situation in the secret chamber. Suyu sat in the secret chamber. He took a deep breath and clenched his fist. The mark of the oil lamp on his chest began to heat up slightly. 5 rules instantly appeared in Suyu's palm. Time, space, soul, life, and death. The 5 rules fused into one, revolving in Suyu's palm like a mark. The mark of the rules. Tribulation Fairy, I am here. Let me see where you are hiding. Suyu's eyes were filled with hatred and murderous intent. He couldn't wait to find the Tribulation Fairy and pay them back for everything they had done to Xia Jingyu and him. Slowly closing his eyes, the mark on his palm flickered. It was rapidly sensing the mark that was branded on the forehead of the Tribulation Fairy. No matter how far apart they were, the 2 marks could sense each other. Beep! All of a sudden, the mark stopped flickering. Suyu's eyes widened, and a trace of confusion filled his eyes. Why does the mark of the Tribulation Fairy fluctuate from east to west, from south to north? Suyu murmured. The first thing he sensed was that the Tribulation Fairy was in the extreme north. Why was he unable to sense his specific location when he was in the extreme north? Was he going to give up? No, never. Suyu closed his eyes and awakened the Dragon of Destiny in the divine 9-dragon cauldron. He wanted to use the path of destiny to pry into the reason. The Dragon of Destiny let out a sonorous roar. Suyu's tightly shut eyes sensed many lines of destiny. One of them was the reason that Suyu wanted to find out. Following this line of destiny, Suyu tried his best to pursue it. He had a feeling that the answer he wanted would be found at the end of this line of destiny. However, the road ahead was obscure, and it was extremely difficult to pursue it. This was because Suyu's path of destiny was not solid enough. However, he gritted his teeth and did not give up. All of a sudden, the line of destiny swayed slightly, and at the end of the darkness, a ray of light appeared. For blurred words came into view. Ancient Dream Altar. Suyu's heart trembled. So that was it. The Tribulation Fairy might have predicted that Suyu would come to find him. So he hid in the mysterious Ancient Dream Altar. The Ancient Dream Altar was filled with the remnant power of the ancient powerful beings, which affected the senses of the Mark of Rules. That was why it fluctuated from east to west, south to north. So it's there. Suyu laughed softly. His laughter was filled with endless coldness. Crash. The tribulation fairy hidden in the ancient dream altar seemed to sense Su Yu's probing through destiny. The light at the end of the line of destiny was suddenly extinguished. At the same time, an invisible giant hand grabbed along the line of destiny. Su Yu casually withdrew his path of destiny, and the giant hand collapsed on its own. Staring at the giant hand, Su Yu grinned. "Wait there. I will come and find you." Slowly opening his eyes, his soul returned to his original body. Su Yu could not help but shiver slightly. He murmured, "We will meet soon, Tribulation Fairy." Chapter 1662. What Su Yu didn't know was that his fight with the Tribulation Fairy with the Path of Destiny had shocked the outside world. The woman, the limitless Sword Saint, and the Taste Empress all looked at the scene in the sky with serious expressions. They saw an invisible, sky-reaching hand sweep across the sky above the mystic Crystal Palace. The giant palm swooped down, trying to catch something. In the courtyard of the ancient corpse sect, a palm filled with 5 types of laws stretched out. The 2 of them collided in midair before disappearing, leaving no trace behind. Such a bizarre scene shocked them to the core. The woman's eyes flickered with shock. The black palm contains tribulation intent, but the 5-colored palm contains 5 types of laws. The Wuji Sword Saint stared at the ancient corpse sect's courtyard with deep fear in his eyes. He said, "The ancient corpse sect's inheritor is this powerful?" He had yet to become an emperor of heaven and earth, but he could already control the laws. This is simply unheard of. The Taste Queen was incomparably solemn. It seems that the ancient dream altar will not be peaceful. Even as the successor of the Snow Dragon Emperor, he was worried about the ancient dream altar. This showed how much he feared the ancient corpse sect. One had to know that the ancient dream altar belonged to the Snow Dragon Emperor, and his understanding of it was incomparable to that of an outsider. Even she felt uneasy, let alone others. The 3 of them simultaneously felt a shadow cast over their hearts. Su Yu, who was completely unaware of this, felt much more relaxed after he had located the Tribulation Fairy. Finding his location was good enough. The next thing to do was to prepare a birthday gift for the Snow Dragon Emperor. If he wanted to restore his original body, he would have to get the permission of the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior to borrow the hot spring. This gift was of the utmost importance. His original intention was to create a stunning masterpiece with the languages of the other races. However, the Starry Tower had also sent people over, so Su Yu had no choice but to restrain himself. If he gave out the alien language, the Star Pavilion would definitely know his identity. After thinking for a long time, Su Yu's soul moved and entered the 9 Jade Spiritual Pearl. Just like in the past, the 9 Jade Spiritual Pearl was tranquil like an otherworldly place, and it was filled with a rich fragrance. In front of the nursery, a large number of precious and extremely old immortal plants were quietly growing. One of them was a giant golden tree that was thousands of meters tall. Its branches and leaves were luxuriant, and it was like a canopy that covered the sky. Its entire body was burning with faint golden flames, looking exceptionally dazzling. Golden flames, forbidden wood, Su Yu murmured. He had obtained the seeds of the golden flames, forbidden wood, from the demon dimension. When one of them grew to 1,000 years old, it was used to refine the 9-sun sword formation. The remaining ones were left to grow. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 years had passed. In the supreme growing soil, it was equivalent to being nurtured for more than 10,000 years. It was comparable to the 10,000 years old heavenly orchid silver bamboo. Su Yu fixed his eyes on a few of the golden flames forbidden trees and searched carefully. Unfortunately, they did not bear any strange fruits like the golden flames forbidden trees. When the heavenly orchid silver bamboo reached 10,000 years of age, it bore a silver fruit. To this day, it was still stored away, and no one knew what it was for. It was also 10,000 years old, but the golden flames forbidden wood did not. This was enough to show that the reason why the heavenly orchid silver bamboo could grow a silver fruit should be related to the heavenly orchid silver bamboo's attribute. Not just any plant placed in the supreme growing soil would grow such a strange fruit. Staring at the golden flames forbidden wood, he planned to use it as a congratulatory gift. When he was in the Star Pavilion, he had looked up ancient documents. Even in the absolute beginning realm, the golden flames forbidden wood was extremely rare. At least, it had never appeared in the sea of constellations, not even as a seedling. In the absolute beginning realm, the golden flames forbidden wood was mainly used to refine divine weapons. It had the powerful effect of avoiding evil and restraining demons. Not only could it kill evil, but most importantly, with the sword at hand, it could be used to deal with inner demons during cultivation. For many martial artists with profound cultivation, or those who were about to reach a bottleneck in their cultivation, the value of the golden flames forbidden wood could be imagined. In the absolute beginning realm, the 100-year-old golden flames forbidden wood was often extremely popular. The 1,000-year-old ones were usually auctioned at high prices by major auction houses. As for the 10,000-year-old ones, they were even rarer. There were few records of such a magical item in the literature. It was said that even the divine warriors of heaven and earth would join in the bidding for the 10,000-year-old ones. After pondering for a moment, Suyu waved his sleeves. The golden flames forbidden wood in front of him broke off a small branch the length of an arm, with 9 leaves on it. Such a long branch should be enough. If I take out a whole 10,000-year-old golden flames forbidden wood, it will inevitably attract covetous eyes. Suyu was extraordinarily calm. Not only that, but Suyu also deliberately treated the cross-section of the branch, making it look like it had been broken for a long time. In this way, it would not arouse suspicion that it had been taken off recently. After putting away the small branch, Suyu sensed Shang Ji's arrival. "Greetings, master." To Suyu's slight surprise, Shang Ji's body had grown a lot, reaching the appearance of a 17 or 18-year-old. Her figure was graceful, her lines were enchanting, her skin was fair, and her facial features were very exquisite. She gave off a cute and delicate feeling. The most peculiar thing about her were her eyes. Her left eye was as black as ink, while her right eye seemed to be inlaid with a golden right eye. One black and one gold, it looked exceptionally strange. "Shungu, your eyes." Suyu stared at her slightly, feeling a strong ghost energy from her left eye and a strong Buddhist energy from her right eye. Shungu smiled sweetly. "Ghost and Buddha are in the same body. I have reached the state of perfection. Master, don't underestimate Shungu anymore." By chance, he had obtained the memory of the ghost Buddha from the mutant 9-colored chaos butterfly. With surprise, Suyu looked carefully and was surprised to find that the strength of Shang Ji's breath was comparable to his. "How did your cultivation become so high?" Suyu took a closer look and almost cried out in surprise. Shang Ji's cultivation had reached the level of a level 1 deity. Back then, she was far inferior to Suyu, but in just a few years, she had made a breakthrough to this level. However, thinking about it carefully, Suyu's cultivation had been stuck at a bottleneck for many years due to the restrictions of becoming a deity. During this period, Shungu had the help of Little Butterfly and endless resources at her disposal. It was normal for her to make breakthroughs in her cultivation and surpass him. That's not all. Shungu flaunted as she put her palms together and performed the Great Hand Mudra of Buddhism. Her left palm was pitch black, while her right palm was golden. After putting her palms together, a mass of half-black, half-golden air gathered in the center of her palms. It was colorless and odorless, but Suyu suddenly felt very uneasy. His intuition told him that this mass of air was very terrifying. He had experienced this feeling recently, when he was facing the meteorite summoned by the ravenous wolf star. "What is this?" Suyu was very interested. Shungu chuckled, put her palms together, and extinguished the mass of air. She said, "It's the spirit of Ghost and Buddha." Ghosts and Buddha are traditionally opposed to each other, and the two types of energy also annihilate each other. However, the ancient Almighty, who had the body of a ghost and Buddha, created an unprecedented divine technique that could perfectly fuse the two types of energy and give birth to the spirit of Ghost and Buddha. Back then, the Almighty, who had the body of Ghost and Buddha, relied on the spirit of ghost and Buddha to kill everyone and establish a very high position. If you dare to bully me in the future, you must be careful. Shungu waved her fist proudly. Suyu smiled. Shungu had been working for Suyu for a long time, but she had rarely helped him. She must have been holding back her anger. Now that her cultivation had improved, her strength had also soared, and she was much more relaxed. Not minding her joke, Suyu said affirmatively, "Just in time, I'm going to a place to seek revenge. You should hurry up and familiarize yourself with the spirit of ghost and Buddha. I hope you can give me a different surprise when the time comes." Shung Ji's little face was overflowing with excitement. "I won't let you down." She clenched her fists, eager to show off her skills in front of Suyu. "Why are you the only one here?" Suyu paused, looked around, and asked. Xiao Dai had always been inseparable from Shungu, and she had even threatened Suyu that if she saw him again, she would eat him. In the past, Xiao Dai would have already pounced on him, baring her fangs and brandishing her claws. Shungu waved her fingers, and a colorful cocoon that was as tall as a person came from afar. She pouted her lips helplessly. "Here, ever since I helped you crush that skull, I started spinning a cocoon right after I came back." "Huh?" Suyu raised his brows slightly. Xiao Dai had already spun a cocoon twice, turning from a caterpillar into a butterfly, and then from a butterfly breaking out of the cocoon into a human form. Is she spinning a cocoon again to evolve into a higher form of life? This was completely different from the evolution process of the 9-colored chaos butterfly that Suyu knew. Normally, the 9-color chaos butterfly was born with a human form, and after evolving into a butterfly, it would no longer spin a cocoon. However, including this time, it was already Xiao Dai's third time spinning a cocoon. As a mutated 9-colored chaos butterfly, her evolution couldn't be predicted with common sense. Suyu wondered what kind of form she would take after breaking out of the cocoon. "Then what about Xiao Jingyu?" Suyu asked as he glanced around. All of a sudden, his eyes lit up with delight. With a thought, he teleported to the front of the thatched cottage. Xiao Jingyu was holding a bamboo stick, and she was poking a pink living creature with a mixture of love and fear. The creature's whole body was covered in scales, and it had 2 pink horns on its head. It looked very adorable. It was lying lazily on the ground, and its eyes were closed. It was obviously sleeping. When Xiao Jingyu poked it with the bamboo stick, it groaned a few times, and its plump body twisted around. Xiao Jingyu was having a great time playing with it, and she kept poking it while giggling and giggling. Little Kylan? Suyu was pleasantly surprised. Ever since it had helped Suyu craft the heavenly orchid silver bamboo, the little Kylan had fallen into an endless slumber. It had been asleep for almost 20 years now. The little Kylan, who was in a deep slumber, wouldn't react to any disturbances in the outside world. However, it was shaking with just a poke, which meant that it was showing signs of awakening. Suyu was overjoyed, as he had assumed that the little Kylan would never wake up. As he recalled all the things that had happened between him and the little Kylan, Suyu's heart warmed. It had witnessed Suyu's most difficult period of growth, and it had already become like a family to him. This guy's been sleeping for 20 years, and it seems like it will wake up soon, right? Shungu was quite jealous of it. This guy, who only knew how to sleep, was much more pampered than she was. Suyu stroked the little Kylan's head and said, "Yes, it will wake up in at most a year, or at least half a year." His heart was filled with anticipation. "Little Jingyu, stay here well, as we will soon meet again." Suyu looked deeply at her as he spoke with a faint smile. Xiao Jingyu was already addicted to playing with the little Kylan, so she waved her hand without turning her head. "Okay, go ahead." She didn't understand what he meant by a reunion. Chapter 1663. With a thought, Suyu returned to the outside world. He had prepared a congratulatory gift for the hot spring, but how could he get an invitation to the ancient dream altar? Even the enormous star pavilion had only received 10 invitations. The Emperor of South Sea had only received 1. The Purple Dream Emperor of East Sea had not received 1. The rest of the big and small forces had only received 1 each. If he wanted to get one, where should he start? Steal? Rob? Cheat? With the formality of the ancient dream altar, every invitation letter would have a unique mark. If one received an invitation letter through an abnormal channel, it would only increase the risk of death. As he was thinking, an invitation slipped out from a slit in the lid of the ice coffin behind him. Suyu fixed his eyes on it, his pupils flickering. An invitation to the ancient dream altar. Suyu was astonished. What was the origin of the ice coffin? Not only did the VIP room of the Northern Snow Sea have a mountain comparable to the Star Pavilion and the 3 great emperors' forces for the ice coffin, but they also sent an invitation to the ancient dream altar. The strangest thing was that Suyu had stayed for a day and did not see the other coffin forces come. "Who are you?" Suyu asked in his heart. Unfortunately, the dead woman did not answer. Instead, she asked Suyu, "The thing you took out from that storage space is very annoying. I don't like it. Throw it away." On the ground, there was a line of small words formed by the melting ice. Was she talking about the golden flames forbidden wood? This wood did have the effect of restraining evil. It could restrain the demon race and the evil corpses. A ray of light filled the depths of Suyu's eyes. If that was the case, there might be a chance to get rid of the ice coffin. However, Suyu did not think about it in his mind. Otherwise, the dead woman would have detected it. He said, "This is the golden flames forbidden wood that I accidentally obtained many years ago. I was going to give it to the Snow Dragon Emperor in exchange for a hot spring." Tick-tock, a line of words came into view. "Hot spring? What do you want?" "Disguise," Suyu said lightly. "Tick-tock, do you think you are ugly? I think you're not bad." Suyu's mouth twitched. He ignored her and walked out of the secret room, summoning the ravenous wolf star and Liu. It should be about time. The birthday banquet of the Snow Dragon King should be starting soon, right? Suyu asked. Greedy Wolf Star looked at the mountains and smiled bitterly. "Before going to the birthday banquet, I'm afraid you have to know one thing or two. For some reason, since we moved in, we have been secretly watched by several big forces. Once we show up, we will be noticed." "Oh." Suyu was slightly confused, and he stared at the mountain peak beneath his feet. Could it be that the influence represented by this coffin is too extraordinary? After muttering to himself for a moment, Suyu shook his head. "So be it. This is the territory of the Snow Dragon, Divine Warrior. Even a Star Cabinet would have to think twice before acting." He took a step out of the house, and sure enough, powerful auras emanated from the other 3 mountains. In particular, the fluctuations coming from the Star Pavilion's mountains faintly contained traces of the power of the Great Desolation. Suyu was secretly shocked. Good heavens, it must be one of the 3 great cabinet masters. It seemed that they valued the ancient dream altar very much. The 3 people left the profound crystal palace in a concealed form, coming straight to the exclusive palace of the Snow Dragon Emperor. The Snow Dragon Emperor had specially come here to entertain the people who had come to congratulate him. Most of them were from the forces under the jurisdiction of the Snow Dragon Emperor, and a small number were foreign forces invited to participate in the ancient dream altar. No matter what, the Snow Dragon Emperor had invited them, and they had to show their respect. When Suyu and the others entered, the birthday banquet hall was crowded with people. Suyu, Greedy Wolf Star, and the others casually sat down, quietly observing the situation. "Brother, please excuse me." Not long after sitting down, a pleasant voice sounded from Suyu's side. Looking sideways, it was a jade-faced man with 3 eyes. He was handsome and elegant, and his bearing was out of this world. He was dressed in a Tai Chi yin-yang Taoist robe, holding an ancient sword in his arms. His demeanor, language, and temperament all gave people a sense of familiarity and comfort, making people unable to dislike him. Suyu's eyes lit up. A Taoist? He was slightly shocked. This person unintentionally exuded a wonderful atmosphere, causing people to unknowingly let down their guard. If he had the intention to harm Suyu's moment of relaxation could have been fatal. Facing this person, Suyu was immediately on guard, quietly making way for him. The young Taoist did not care about Suyu at first, but he was extremely sensitive to Suyu's vigilance. He smiled and said, "Sorry for offending you, brother." He passed by Suyu, walking a distance away before sitting down gently. Young master, be careful of this person. He is an expert. Greedy Wolf Star's voice drifted into Su Yu's ears. Su Yu's eyes turned, and he asked, how powerful is he? Greedy Wolf Star said, among his peers, no one should be a match for him, including you. He understood Su Yu's strength. If he fought with all his might, he could kill a silver overlord. However, he was still certain that Su Yu was no match for him. It was obvious that the young Taoist's strength was unfathomable. Crash. Not long after, there was a commotion outside the hall. 3 creatures with extremely powerful auras slowly walked into the hall under the compliments of many young talents. Looking at them, Su Yu only recognized one of the 3, the merciless Saber Emperor. Besides them, there were 2 other women. One of them was dressed in a long purple robe. Her expression was cold, but her face was extremely beautiful. She was unforgettable. Even though Su Yu was used to seeing many beautiful women, he could not help but be stunned for a moment. However, her whole body was filled with cold energy, giving off a feeling of being 1,000 miles away. She was like a holy snow lotus that could only be looked at from afar, not touched. As for the other woman, she was sitting cross-legged on a red lotus, floating in the air. She was dressed in red chiffon, with a Taoist crown on her head, her hands forming seals. Her long black hair flowed softly behind her back like a waterfall. Her face was beautiful, peaceful, and compassionate. Staring at her, one's state of mind was unconsciously at peace, making one forget the secular world and all things in the world. The 2 women's appearances and temperaments were completely opposite, but they were equally peerless, giving people great spiritual joy. Hey, Taste Queen, the descendant of the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior, your cultivation is improving year by year. In no less than 1,000 years, we old antiques will have to give way to you. Greedy Wolf Star gave a hollow laugh, his words full of deep fear. Looking at Taste Queen, Su Yu was not surprised that she was the descendant of the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior. Such a powerful cold path, besides being taught by the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior. There was no other possibility, right? He was more interested in the second woman in red. She looked like a Taoist nun, with a compassionate appearance, but there was a hidden murderous aura in her body. Who is she? Su Yu asked. Greedy Wolf Star was stunned, asking, you don't know her? Su Yu said, is there a need for me to know her? Of course. She is the leader of the younger generation of the Star Pavilion, Blood Guanyin. Since you joined the Star Pavilion, don't you know her? What, it's her? Su Yu's heart trembled. He had never seen this woman before, but her reputation was like thunder to his ears. The leader of the younger generation of the Star Pavilion, from the Swordlight Pavilion. There were not many rumors about her, but every one of them was terrifying. Blood Guanyin was born with a blood lotus in her mouth. At the age of 3, she comprehended the great path of heaven and earth. At the age of 10, she stepped into the divine path. At the age of 18, she broke through the overlord domain. Now, at the age of 21, it was said that she had broken through the shackles and reached the level of the golden overlord. 3 years ago, she came out of seclusion and traveled south. When she returned, she brought back the beast core of a glazed crystal overlord. Even though she was seriously injured, she killed the glazed crystal overlord with her own strength. It was the first time Su Yu had heard of such a legendary heaven ruler, and he was shocked for a long time. He thought his potential was good, and his cultivation was not slow. But compared to Blood Guanyin, he was like a mortal. How could Su Yu not know such a woman? The great beginning realm is indeed full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Not only are there natural creatures like the Emperor of the Holy Mountain, but there are also unparalleled heaven rulers like Blood Guanyin, Su Yu secretly exclaimed. As if sensing Su Yu's gaze, Blood Guanyin turned her head and looked at Su Yu in surprise, then at the strange ice coffin on his back. Their gazes met in the air. Su Yu's expression was calm, without fear, envy, or respect. Blood Guanyin was slightly surprised. She smiled faintly, retracted her gaze, and sat down at the front. That was a place exclusive to a heaven ruler like her. The crowd continued to flow in, and Suyu was not surprised to see familiar faces. Mu Songhai, Yin Changhong. Next was Lan Yu. She accompanied a group of young talents from the Red Leaf Pavilion branch. Her presence was extraordinary, and she also attracted a lot of attention, especially the white-haired young man at the front. He had a head of white hair, and his skin was as pale as snow, without any color of blood. But his lips were red and moist, like fresh blood. He wore a gorgeous golden cloak and a jade crown on his head, looking very ostentatious. The ravenous wolf star also noticed this person. He nodded slightly, his eyes filled with admiration. Bai Shuejian, not bad, second only to Blood Guanyin. I once heard the chief pavilion master mention that Bai Shuejian is very likely to become the next pavilion master. He had become a pavilion master candidate at such a young age, and his potential was obvious. The last familiar person he saw was the Yin Chuan branch. Zhao Fu led the Yin Chuan branch's participants, following closely behind the Red Leaf Pavilion branch. He and Mu Songhai were both Pavilion Master Hu's disciples, but their relationship was like fire and water. He naturally fell behind and did not travel with Mu Songhai. Suyu did not care about him, and he retracted his gaze after a casual glance. But the moment he retracted his gaze, Suyu noticed a strange person among the people behind him, and he could not help but take another look. It was this look that caused Suyu's expression to change. It was a rat-headed man with a wretched expression. He looked left and right, his pitch-black eyes rolling around, and he looked extremely shrewd. In the great beginning realm, where there were many foreign races, rat-headed people were not strange. But Suyu was extremely shocked. The descendant of the sky reaching overlord, Half Moon, as the godly thief Half Moon who had been lost in the god realm. Suyu had a deep impression of him. When they first met, he had stolen the Tai East Emperor Bell without anyone knowing. Then, he had even replaced the overlord Yongye Chioma's Dragon Pearl with him. In terms of the art of stealing, if he said he was second, no one would dare say he was first. He was actually with Zhao Fu. Suyu's eyes narrowed slightly as he stared at Zhao Fu, his mind racing. If I'm not mistaken, Zhao Fu is up to something sinister again, isn't he? After a moment's deliberation, Suyu could not help but look at Mu Songhai, his mind as clear as a mirror. Chapter 1664. As the guests took their seats, a deep laughter pierced through the air. Before the crowd could discern the source of the voice, on the main seat of the palace, a figure silently appeared. It was an imposing man wearing a snow-white robe. He was 8 feet tall, his body slender, and there was a hint of gentleness between his brows. His appearance was also extremely handsome. At first glance, one would think it was a woman, but the people present did not dare to offend, respectfully standing up. Congratulations on the birthday of the Snow Dragon Emperor. The Snow Dragon Emperor's lips curled into a faint smile, pressing his hand down. No need to be so courteous. The birthday every year will not change. There was a hint of dissatisfaction in his tone. The foreign forces were still fine, but the large and small forces under the Snow Dragon Emperor's jurisdiction all paled. Emperor, this is the birthday gift that the Heavenly Music Pavilion prepared for the Emperor. A beautiful young girl held a gift in her hands. It was a zither, the strings intact, only the head was burnt. But the grade of this zither was extremely high. It was a true Emperor-level divine weapon, using the 9 Dragons Valley's divine realm to measure it. It was an imperial saint weapon. The Snow Dragon Emperor glanced at it, expressionlessly saying, "This is one of the 8 immortal zither of the Heavenly Music Pavilion? Thank you, put down the gift." The young girl's beautiful face dimmed, submissively handing the gift to the Master of Ceremonies. The Snow Dragon Emperor celebrated his birthday every year, and the Heavenly Music Pavilion was one of the 3 largest forces under his jurisdiction. If they gave a gift, if they angered the Snow Dragon Emperor, they would be annihilated with a single thought. But if they gave a gift, the Snow Dragon Emperor had celebrated his birthday for 30,000 years. What gift had he not seen before? How difficult was it to gain the satisfaction of the Snow Dragon Emperor? Helplessly, the Heavenly Music Pavilion gave out their pavilion treasure, the 8 immortal zither. Inherited from the founder of the Heavenly Music Pavilion, it had been a pavilion treasure for 20,000 years. But when the first zither was given out, the Snow Dragon Emperor was still somewhat happy and rewarded the heavenly music pavilion with many things. But after that, the Snow Dragon Emperor no longer had any interest. Until now, he was already impatient. Bitterly, the young girl returned to the heavenly music pavilion. She knew that after she returned, the next year of the heavenly music pavilion would not be easy. As long as there were forces that did not satisfy the Snow Dragon Emperor, they would more or less receive punishment from the palace, such as confiscating their resources. After she retreated, a bald young man walked over, bowing as he presented a congratulatory gift. Congratulations on the birthday of the Snow Dragon Sovereign. This is a congratulatory gift from the Three Murders Manor. Please accept it. The Three Kill House was the second most powerful force in the Snow Dragon Emperor's territory, above the Heavenly Music Pavilion. What he gave was a magnificent crystal ball, which contained an extremely boundless, prehistoric power. The indifferent face of the Snow Dragon Emperor finally revealed a trace of emotion. The eyes of the blue sky beast, it's been hard on you. Not bad, I will accept them. The bald youth heaved a sigh of relief. That eyeball had been obtained from the remains of the blue sky beast, a monarch grade C beast that the Three Kill Mansion had spent a lot of manpower and resources to find. Although it was tough, they had finally overcome this year's crisis. After he left, another young man stood up and said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "Heart-chasing ship congratulates your majesty on your birthday and presents a gift. We hope your majesty will like it." Heart-chasing airline was the strongest force in the region. Even the Heavenly Music Pavilion and the Three Kill House combined could not compare. What he gave was a book, a dilapidated ancient book. The ancient book was extremely damaged. Only 2 or 3 pages were useful. The rest could not be read. The Snow Dragon Emperor looked at the ancient book, inhaling through the air, casually flipping through it. His expression changed for the first time. Heavenly book characters, not bad, not bad. This item is indeed rare. He looked at the youth. I will accept Heart-Chasing Airline's gift. Do you have any unfulfilled wishes? This was the Snow Dragon Emperor. If he was satisfied, he could make a wish on the spot. The youth said joyfully, Heart-Chasing Airline, please bestow the protection talisman to your majesty. The Snow Dragon Emperor did not say another word, flicking out a talisman that contained the power of prehistoric power. I will only make 3 of these talismans a year. I will bestow 1 to you. Thank you, your majesty. Thank you, your majesty. The youth was extremely excited. A talisman that contained the power of prehistoric power of the heaven and earth divine emperor. Once crushed, was there a need to describe how powerful it was? Even if a profound crystal overlord sea beast bullied a sect, it could be turned to ashes with 1 talisman. Heavenly Music Pavilion and Three Murders residents were envious. Unfortunately, they did not have such a great opportunity and could not find rare things like the heavenly book characters. The Snow Dragon Emperor was in a good mood, waiting for the remaining people to present their gifts one by one. Unfortunately, ever since Heart-Chasing Airline, the Snow Dragon Emperor's expression had not changed for 10,000 years, and no one else's gift could arouse his interest. Even when everyone within his jurisdiction had finished presenting their gifts, he did not reveal the slightest expression. Finally, it was the guest's turn. The Snow Dragon Emperor did not have high expectations of what amazing gifts they could prepare. The reason was very simple. They mainly came to participate in the ancient dream altar. Congratulating the Snow Dragon Emperor was just a convenience. Who would carefully prepare such a huge gift to please the Snow Dragon Emperor? Sure enough, the Merciless Saber Emperor, who was the successor of the Slaughter Emperor, presented a proper congratulatory gift. There was nothing new about it. Out of courtesy, the Snow Dragon Emperor ordered people to accept it. Snow Dragon Emperor, I am Huang Fulayong. I present a gift. I hope the pavilion master will accept it. An elegant and handsome man with an otherworldly bearing stepped forward and bowed. The Snow Dragon Emperor sized him up, then looked at the gift in his hand. With one look, his indifferent expression changed, an obvious joy lingering on his face. Nine-eyed, demonic ducks, inner Dan. Good stuff. It really is good stuff. He held it in his hand, unable to put it down, praising it again and again. Everyone present was astonished. Nine-eyed demonic duck. That should be a notorious member of the evil clan, right? This duck was born with 9 eyes, specializing in seizing people's souls. How many Overlord expert had their souls destroyed, and how many heaven and earth emperors had pursued the 9-eyed demonic duck? But this duck had remarkable abilities and was also cunning. For hundreds of thousands of years, it was safe and sound, until tens of thousands of years ago, it was heard that it was killed by a powerful being. Unexpectedly, its most important inner Dan had fallen into the hands of this young man. The value of this object was comparable to half a heaven and earth emperor. No wonder the Snow Dragon Emperor was excited. "What do you want?" The Snow Dragon Emperor said generously. "As long as I have it, I can give it to you," Huang Fuliang said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. "I dare not ask for much, just an ancient dream altar invitation letter." The Snow Dragon Emperor was slightly surprised, re-examining him. "Which force are you from?" Those who were able to come here, according to common sense, were distinguished guests who had received an ancient dream altar invitation letter. "A rogue cultivator who came uninvited," Huang Fuliang said. "An unknown person?" According to the past, the Snow Dragon Emperor would definitely not give the ancient dream altar invitation letter to an unknown person. But after a short moment of hesitation, the Snow Dragon Emperor took out an invitation letter and said, "Feel free to enter." Huang Fuliang received it and said, "Thank you." From the beginning to the end, Huang Fuliang's expression was incomparably calm when facing the Snow Dragon Emperor, without any fear to speak of. As if staring at him deeply, the Snow Dragon Emperor accepted the inner Dan himself and did not hand it over to the Master of Ceremonies. "Thank you, everyone. The banquet is ready. Everyone, please enjoy your meal." The Snow Dragon Emperor was satisfied with the inner Dan and did not care about the congratulatory gifts that followed. "Wait," a clear voice floated over. The people who were about to get up were stunned. Who had the guts to interrupt the Snow Dragon Emperor? The Snow Dragon Emperor was also slightly unhappy, but he maintained his patience due to the presence of guests. He looked at the person who spoke and said, "What's the matter?" The crowd gathered, and Suyu walked out, offering a prepared jade box. "Congratulations on your birthday. I specially prepared this gift." The Snow Dragon Emperor did not look at it, lightly nodding. Yes, Master of Ceremonies, accept it. He no longer had any expectations for the subsequent congratulatory gifts. The Master of Ceremonies walked down, taking the jade box and placing it into his space storage device. Suyu said indifferently, "Emperor, are you not going to take a look at what I have given you?" The Snow Dragon Emperor stared at Suyu from the corner of his eyes, his disdain evident. He asked indifferently, "Which faction are you from?" He thought that Suyu was probably a representative of some small faction. Suyu was neither servile nor overbearing, calmly saying, "I am a guest of the dazzling Crystal Palace, one of the 4 great mountains." The Snow Dragon Emperor, whose eyes were filled with impatience, trembled imperceptibly. The dazzling Crystal Palace's 4 great mountains had prepared a top-notch courtyard for the 4 great guests. The successor of the South Sea Killing Emperor, the Merciless Saber Emperor, was present, as was the Star Pavilion, and Empress Ziwei. All 3 great guests were present. Obviously, Suyu did not belong to any of the 3 factions. Then, it went without saying which mountain he came from. It was the terrifying successor of the faction. The Ancient Corpse faction. The Snow Dragon Emperor's pupil shrank. He raised his head, looking straight at Suyu, sizing him up. When he noticed the ice coffin behind Suyu, his pupils shrank again. "Where's the identity jade token?" The Snow Dragon Emperor's tone was exceptionally serious. He did not expect the legendary Ancient Corpse faction to appear in the world. Suyu did not say a word, taking out the ice token. With just a glance, the Snow Dragon Emperor was certain. He nodded. "Your identity is not bad." Except for a very small number of people present, no one knew what the mountain carved with the ice coffin meant. Suyu calmly said, "Then, I implore the Emperor to take a look at my congratulatory gift." The Snow Dragon Emperor's eyes swept over. The jade box could not block the Snow Dragon Emperor's gaze. He could clearly see what was inside the jade box. With one look, the Snow Dragon Emperor sat up in shock. Gold. He only managed to say one word before he shut his mouth in time. However, the pleasant surprise on his face could not be concealed. That was an expression even more wonderful than when he received the 19 demonic ducks inner elixir. Everyone was shocked, staring at the jade box and guessing. Some of the stronger ones even tried to examine the jade box, but they were blocked by a primordial force. The explorers withdrew their gazes, not daring to continue. It was obvious that the Snow Dragon Emperor did not want them to know the true identity of the jade box. But the more he did so, the more they felt the value of this item. What kind of peerless item could make the Snow Dragon Emperor lose his composure and deliberately hide it? The Snow Dragon Emperor stared at Suyu, his eyes shining brightly. Is there any other part? I can use anything you want to exchange for it. Reaching the level of the divine warrior of heaven and earth, the more one needed to resist the interference of the unseen. The golden flames forbidden wood, which only existed in the legends, was the best treasure. Chapter 1665. Suyu naturally wouldn't expose it, so he shook his head to indicate that he didn't. A hint of greed flashed in the eyes of the Snow Dragon King, but when he looked at the ice coffin on Suyu's back, he pondered for a moment and chose to give up. His expression and actions were seen by a few people, and they all secretly shivered. It seemed that the ancient corpse sect was indeed powerful. The Snow Dragon Emperor had the intention to get his hands on the golden flames forbidden wood, but he was afraid of the other party's background and gave up on the idea. Fine, what do you want? The Snow Dragon Emperor asked calmly. Suyu said, I heard that the Snow Dragon King has a hot spring that can change the breath and form of living creatures. I would like to borrow it. Everyone was slightly startled. They had given out such a generous gift just for a dispensable hot spring? That's it. The Snow Dragon Sovereign was taken aback. Suyu nodded. The Snow Dragon Emperor pondered for a moment. I'll lend you the Yin-Yang hot spring, but your gift is too precious. If I only give you the hot spring, it would be too much. He flicked his sleeve and took out a talisman. It was the protection talisman that was personally refined by the divine warrior of heaven and earth. Perhaps you don't lack it, but this emperor does. So you took it gladly. How could he not be in need of it? His expression did not change, and he accepted it calmly. However, he was inwardly overjoyed. With this talisman in hand, most of the dangers of the ancient dream altar could be resolved. The yin-yang hot spring will only be effective when yin and yang converge. According to my calculations, it should be tomorrow. You might as well prepare for it first. Suyu nodded and returned to his seat. Rays of scorching light focused on his body. He could clearly feel many gazes sweeping over his body. Among them, several powerful gazes had already seen through his true appearance. Suyu was also helpless about this. He originally thought that the Snow Dragon Emperor was experienced and knowledgeable, and would not be so happy even if he obtained a small piece of golden flames forbidden wood. But the result, that was why it attracted many curious gazes. Among the people present, there were many overlord strongmen. Suyu's ordinary concealment technique couldn't prevent them from probing him forcefully. Why is it Brother Shui? The strong men in the Starry Tower quickly discovered Suyu's true appearance, and all of them were shocked. Lan Yu cried out in surprise when she found out. A few experts from the Star Pavilion even looked at him in surprise. He's Shui Yu, who the Chief Pavilion Master and the 3 Great Pavilion Masters are looking for. It can't be. Why did he become the representative of other forces? Just who is the power with the coffin symbol? How could it be on par with our Starry Sky Pavilion? Yet, we've never heard of it before. Only a few people knew about the existence of the Ancient Corpse faction, so they just assumed that Suyu had joined another faction. Mu Songhai cast a surprised look at him. As the former pavilion leader, he had personally experienced the Heavenly Stem Star Tribulation. Naturally, the disaster of the Ancient Corpses was also very deep. When he found out that the successor of the Ancient Corpse faction was Suyu, he couldn't help but be surprised. Was he a spy of the Ancient Corpse sect, or did he join later? She had promised that she would tell Suyu the truth about the black-gray stone after the ancient dream altar. However, from the looks of it now, he had no choice but to reconsider. He is at Shuiyu? Beside Lan Yu, a man with long white hair stared at Suyu coldly. White snow sword. Lan Yu nodded and said, "Yes, big brother Shui is very powerful. He saved me, an eighth brother back then. Brother Bai, if you meet him at the ancient dream altar, please take good care of him." Take good care of him? Yes, I will, White Snow Sword said, the corners of his mouth curling into an imperceptible smile. The banquet was joyous and harmonious, and everyone left happily. Suyu walked back to the dazzling Crystal Palace alone. Unexpectedly, as soon as he walked out, the representatives of dozens of factions, big and small, came chasing after him. Among them were the Heavenly Sound Chamber, the Mansion of Three Murders, and Heart-Chasing Hanger. "Young hero, please wait." The young lady of the Heavenly Sound Chamber caught up with him, her fragrance pleasing to the nose. Suyu turned around and asked, "What's the matter?" The young lady's face was filled with eagerness. She looked around and said, "Can I have a place to talk? I have a deal to discuss." Suyu thought for a moment and understood. After a pause, he said, "Sure, come to where I am staying." In the courtyard of the Ancient Corpse faction in the dazzling Crystal Palace, a group of factions, big and small, had gathered outside. They all had the same goal as the Heavenly Sound Chamber. However, only the top 3 factions had the right to discuss a deal with Suyu. The young lady glanced at the other 2 young men with an unfriendly look. She squinted and said, "Both of you, the Mansion of Three Murders and Heart-Chasing Hanger have passed the test this time. Do you still want to compete with the Heavenly Sound Chamber?" The bald young man sighed helplessly. "Passed. Do you know how much we paid for that blue sky beast, Sai? For a whole year, more than half of our disciples and uncles have been running around in search of priceless gifts. In the end, we only ended up with mediocre results. Unlike Heart-Chasing Hanger, which was rewarded by the Emperor, we more or less recouped some of our costs." Unexpectedly, the young man of Heart-Chasing Hanger was also extremely bitter. "Recouped? How could it be so easy?" Heart-Chasing Hanger also paid a huge price for that heavenly book remnant scroll. In terms of cost, even 2 talismans can't make up for it. Moreover, the young man of Heart-Chasing Hanger was even more bitter. This isn't the only time the Emperor's birthday will be celebrated. It will be repeated next year. When that time comes, where should we go to find a world's rare treasures? The Snow Dragon Emperor had celebrated his birthday 30,000 times in a row. Every year, he would ask the factions under his rule to come and congratulate him. With such frequent congratulations, all the world's spiritual treasures in the northern snow ocean had been plundered clean. The more time passed, the more difficult it became for the various factions to find the world's rare treasures. They even had to go to the South and East Seas to look for them. Not to mention the cost of financial and material resources, the development of the entire faction had been completely delayed, which made them miserable. Suyu gently closed his eyes and opened them calmly. He said lightly, "The 3 of you don't have to complain in front of me. Since I invited you here, I am naturally willing to discuss a deal with you." After thinking about it, Suyu randomly plucked 3 leaves of the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood from the 9 Jade Spiritual Pearl and placed them in front of him. "What do you offer in exchange?" Suyu asked. The 3 of them looked at it. At first, they didn't know what a leaf was. After a long while, they gradually remembered the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood recorded in the ancient books. They were all shocked. No wonder the Emperor lost his composure like that. "It's the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood that is on the verge of extinction," the girl cried out involuntarily. However, she realized something and immediately shut her mouth. The Emperor was unwilling to reveal even the slightest bit of this item. If she spoke out of turn, the consequences would be unimaginable. But immediately, her face lit up with joy. She asked, "Only leaves?" Suyu said, "The rest have been given to the Emperor. There are only 3 leaves left. If you don't want them, forget it." "Yes. Why don't you want them?" "The Heavenly Music Pavilion wants them all." The young master hurriedly grabbed them. Even the leaves of the Golden Flames Forbidden Wood had incredible uses. Offering 1 every year could at least guarantee a pass. "You want to take it all for yourself?" The other two young men were furious and grabbed at the same time. For the sake of just 3 leaves, the representatives from the powerful forces were actually fighting over them on the spot. So he was amused. He had as many leaves of the golden flames forbidden wood as he wanted. Come to think of it, the forces behind them were much more powerful than Jianxian, especially the heart-chasing ship, which was guarded by the sovereign, a great figure at the level of the glazed crystal overlord. But for the sake of a mere leaf, they had to fight with others. Are the 3 of you looking down on me? Suyu casually pressed his hand down and covered the 3 leaves. Only then did the 3 of them realize that they had lost their composure and withdrew their hands. 1 leaf for each of you. The premise is that you have something that moves me, Suyu said. The girl of the Heavenly Music Pavilion was discouraged, but it was better than nothing. If she could get one, the faction could relax for a whole year. She thought for a moment, then clenched her teeth and took out a guqin, similar to the one she had given to the Snow Dragon King. This is the last of the 7 deity zither of the Heavenly Music Pavilion, in exchange for your leaves. The girl placed the divine zither on the ground. She was very sad that the last treasure of the Heavenly Music Pavilion had been given away just like that. No. Unexpectedly, Suyu shook his head and refused. The girl's beautiful face turned pale, her eyes almost squeezing out tears. She choked with sobs. But there are not many things in the Heavenly Music Pavilion that are more valuable than this. Treasures are useless to me. I need one-time consumables. The more powerful, the better, Suyu said. The girl suddenly raised her head, her misty eyes once again filled with excitement. Are you sure, sir? A consumable item that can be used once, no matter how powerful it is far inferior to a less powerful magic treasure. After all, treasures could be used many times, but consumables would be lost once they were used up. Suyu looked at the 3 of them and said, "It's convenient for others and convenient for yourself. If you have any powerful one-time consumables, take them out." The girl was overjoyed. She kowtowed gratefully and thanked him. "Thank you, sir, for your kindness." The other 2 youths were also deeply moved, and they bowed in gratitude. The martial path is cruel, but you didn't take advantage of us. Instead, you empathize with us. You make me feel ashamed. The youth from the heart-chasing ship sighed. He bowed sincerely and took out a scroll with a mountain and river painting inside. This is the scenic mountains and river painting that I brought with me this time. If you encounter an enemy, you can use it. Anyone below the silver overlord level can be killed instantly. Suyu was delighted. He flicked his finger and a leaf landed on his palm. The transaction was a success. The 3 Murders Mansion will remember your kindness. If you have any difficulties in the ancient dream altar, you can look for us. The youth took out a battle axe and said, "The axe contains a technique sealed by my teacher. Once it is crushed, it can severely injure the enemy. Even the silver overlord will have to retreat." Suyu flicked his finger, and a second leaf landed in his hand. The last one was the girl from the Heavenly Sound Pavilion. She took out a snow-white handkerchief from her bosom. The handkerchief depicted 7 beautiful girls playing the zither together. She said, "The scroll contains the 7 zither techniques. You only need to throw it out to summon the 7 zither to kill the enemy. Although its power isn't as great as the previous 2 senior brothers, it has the advantage of having a wide attack range." Suyu agreed readily and handed the last leaf to her. The 3 of them were all grateful to Suyu. Looking at their expressions, it seemed like they were treating Suyu as their benefactor. Chapter 1666. After sending the 3 of them away, Suyu closed the enchantment outside. The other forces might also have treasures, but it was better not to bite off more than one could chew. There were 3 one-time consumables, enough to deal with some unexpected situations. However, Suyu wanted peace, but someone refused. As soon as the enchantment was closed, several beams of light came from the Star Pavilion. Among them were Lan Yu and several strangers. "Brother Shui," Lan Yu shouted outside the enchantment, excited. Suyu had a slight headache. He could not pretend not to see them. After all, Lan Yu had boarded Cabinet Hu's star and helped him out in public. He braced himself to open the enchantment and welcomed them in. "Miss Lan, what can I do for you?" Suyu asked directly. Lan Yu pouted. "Brother Shui, in my heart, you are still Brother Shui of the Star Pavilion. Why are you so distant? My brothers all want to come and see you." "See me?" Suyu glanced at the people behind her. Although they had smiles on their faces, the look in their eyes did not seem very friendly. "Brother Shui, I've heard about you for a long time. We heard that you saved my 9th sister and 8th brother from the siege of the corpse-loving dogs. So we came to thank you," a young man in a blue robe said. His words were grateful, but there was a hint of doubt in his tone. A level 3 Cavern World Venerable could kill 10 level 1 Cavern World Venerables with one sword? Suyu said, "It was just a matter of convenience. There is no need to thank me. If you're just here to thank me, you don't have to. I still have something to do, so I won't accompany you." He had the intention to drive them away. The young man did not seem to understand and said with a smile, "Brother Shui, you can put aside other matters. It is a rare opportunity for us to meet. Why don't we have a friendly match?" Suyu had already seen the doubts in his heart, so he said mercilessly, "I have never met you before, and I really don't see any fate between us. There is no need for a friendly match. Please go ahead." After that, he waved his hand as if he was shooing away flies, then turned and walked into the house. The young man's patience was obviously exhausted. He was a level 1 Cavern World Venerable who had already touched the edge of being an overlord and only needed an opportunity to break through. He had spoken nicely, but who would have thought that Suyu would not give him face and not take him seriously? The one with the surname Shui. Don't think that just because the Chief Pavilion Master and the 3 Pavilion Venerables have taken a liking to you, you can do whatever you want. In terms of real strength, who do you think you are? Suyu turned his head and said indifferently, "Who is the one who is acting so brazenly? In my house, you forced me to spar and spoke rudely when I refused. It was you, sir, right?" The young man snorted coldly. "I'm giving you face by coming here. Surname Shui. Don't be so shameless. I just want to know if you have that kind of strength." He finally spoke his mind. He looked down on Suyu from the bottom of his heart, regardless of background or cultivation. "You don't even deserve to wipe my shoes, so why would I need your face?" Suyu said calmly, looking at him as if he was looking at an ignorant person. The young man laughed. "How arrogant. No wonder I heard that you were kicked out of the Star Pavilion. You only have yourself to blame." Suyu had a calm expression on his face. Ignorance is not a mistake. What is wrong is taking ignorance as superiority. Even the Red Leaf Pavilion's Pavilion Master doesn't dare to say that I was chased away, yet a mere disciple like you dares to say such things? It was not difficult to verify that he had left the Star Pavilion of his own accord. "If I say you are, then you are." The young man drew out his long knife, and the tip of the knife was surrounded by visible knife energy. "Surname Shui. Let me see what makes you so arrogant." Heaven-slashing knife drawing style. The young man immediately displayed his knife technique. A huge knife energy, like an enlarged sword, slashed down from the sky. With a loud rumble, the knife energy slashed down on Suyu's head with irresistible force. Suyu did not even look at it. He casually stretched out 2 fingers, which contained a wisp of pitch-black sword energy, and casually slashed down. Whoosh! A strange scene happened. The seemingly powerful knife energy was destroyed by the black sword energy at Suyu's fingertips. The young man was confused. He could not believe that a level 3 Cavern World Senior could destroy his sword energy with only 2 fingers. Again, heaven-slashing knife drawing style. An even sharper knife energy came across the sky and slashed down on Suyu. Suyu still used 2 fingers, and a wisp of pitch-black sword energy slashed across the sky. Whoosh! The young man's sword energy was once again shattered, leaving nothing behind. It can't be. How could this be? The young man was bewildered. He was confident in his extraordinary knife technique, but Suyu did not even need to use his sword. After muttering to himself for a while, he suddenly raised his head and glared at Suyu. He yelled, "Tell me, did you set up a spell nearby? Did you use some underhanded means?" Suyu frowned slightly and slowly walked forward. With a sweep of his 2 fingers, a wisp of pitch-black sword energy shuttled through the space and instantly hit him. Wah! The young man spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot and flew backward. The long saber in his hand flew out of his hand and fell to the ground with a clang. With his flight, he directly flew out of the barrier. I've already said that you are not worthy of wiping my shoes. Suyu collected the sword energy at his fingertips and said indifferently. He glanced at the rest of the people, his face indifferent. Everyone, we've had enough sparring. Can we go back now? Wait. Another young man walked out. He was slightly older, but his strength was much higher. He was a genuine bronze overlord. How can you be so overbearing? Wounding people at will? Don't you know that he wants to participate in the ancient dream altar? What if you drag him down? Can you bear the responsibility? The young man stood up and immediately reprimanded Suyu. In his eyes, it was as if Suyu had become a sinner. Suyu laughed and said, he attacked me twice, but I didn't see him showing any mercy. Why didn't you stop him? Moreover, if I get injured, won't I delay the ancient dream altar? Aren't you using your double standards too easily? Suyu sneered. The young man shouted sternly and stared at Suyu in an unfriendly manner. With a cold face, he said, can you compare to him? Do you know who he is? He is a loser and a nobody. I don't want to know. Suyu interrupted him mercilessly. You, on the other hand, are trying to find a reason to attack me. Attack me then. Don't talk nonsense here. The young man's eyes turned cold. How dare you be so arrogant in front of an overlord? You really don't know what's good for you. I am Wei LV of the Red Leaf Pavilion, ranked 5th, the young man named Wei LV said indifferently. Suyu said, I don't want to know your name either. Ha ha ha. Wei LV laughed. I told you my name so that you would remember who defeated you. Wei LV let out a loud roar, his whole body surging with Buddhist light. He was a Buddhist monk. Huge muscles bulged out of his body, giving off an unusually strong feeling. Buddha's angry Vajra. With a leap of his feet, his whole body leaped into the air and crashed down with the force of Mount Tai. Suyu tapped the tip of his toes and casually dodged it. Bang! In an instant, a huge crater was formed on the ground. Rocks flew everywhere, smashing against the enchantment and creating ripples. But this was only the beginning. Wei LV laughed mockingly. If you think you can avoid it by just dodging, you are underestimating the level of the overlords. Rumble, rumble. The ground beneath Suyu's feet suddenly trembled. The ground beneath Suyu's feet suddenly split open, and a pair of giant golden palms stretched out like bamboo shoots. Crack! Suyu dodged in time. The giant golden palms struck the air as if they could split open a mountain. But after Suyu dodged before his feet landed on the ground beneath him split open again, and another pair of palm prints appeared. Suyu dodged once again. But no matter where he dodged to, the golden palms came endlessly from the ground. There was no place for him to land. Taking a step in the air, Suyu leaped into the air. However, the giant golden palms that had emerged from the ground rose up one after another and soared into the sky to attack Suyu, who was in midair. They surrounded Suyu from all directions, and not even a drop of water could escape. Hundreds of palm prints attacked him at the same time. Even a strong overlord would not be able to withstand it. Shui, kneel down and apologize to my 6th brother, and I will spare you this once. Otherwise, I will let you have a taste of the Buddha's angry Vajra. Wei LV shouted arrogantly, his eyes filled with mockery. Even if Suyu really knelt down, he did not intend to let Suyu off easy. You talk too much. A sentence floated out from within the encirclement of the golden palms. Wei LV laughed coldly. Then let me have a taste of the price of arrogance. Creak! But at that moment, a powerful ripple leaked out from within the encirclement. Thump! With a loud noise, the palm prints that had tightly surrounded Suyu were swept away with a loud bang, smashing in all directions. Looking over, Suyu was holding a giant blood-red sword that was even taller than him, standing there coldly. Not only was the blood-red sword long and wide, but it was also releasing a powerful ripple. A true Emperor-level divine weapon? How could it be? Where did you steal it from? Wei LV could not believe it, instinctively shouting, "Steal?" In his mind, something that even he, an overlord, did not have, a mere level 3 Cavern World Senior, must have come from a shady background. Su Yu's eyes were filled with a deadly coldness. He was a little tired of the endless pestering. "You seem to think too highly of yourself." Su Yu did not use any sword techniques, merely swinging the Azura sword down. In an instant, a 10,000 zhong long phantom descended. Wei LV was severely injured by the sword energy, spitting out blood. His Vajra Buddhist power was completely broken. As he spat out blood, he flew out of the enchantment. With the Azura sword in his hand, Su Yu descended. The wild wind lifted his black hair, covering his left eye. His remaining right eye was filled with a cold intent. "Let's attack together." There were only 3 Yus left in front of him, but each of them was much stronger than Wei LV. Although there were no silver overlords among them, they were the cream of the crop among the bronze overlords. Hearing this, the 3 youths laughed angrily. They had not taken the initiative to provoke Su Yu, but Su Yu had provoked all of them. Originally, if it was just one person, they would not have dared to face the divine power of the true Emperor-level divine weapon head-on. But if there were 3 of them, second brother, this person is arrogant, but his abilities are ordinary. He is only relying on a divine weapon. Let's join forces and teach him a lesson. The one called second brother was the second strongest fighter in the Red Leaf Pavilion, Shan Xiong, second only to Bai Xuejian. Chapter 1667. That's right. We are not bullying him with numbers. We are teaching him the ways of human, so that he can live a few more years. Liu had been watching from the sidelines, shaking her head helplessly as she listened to their shameless remarks. They had forced Su Yu to spar with them, then attacked again out of humiliation. After repeated failures, they had all attacked together, claiming that they were teaching Su Yu the ways of a human. It was a pity that they were the ones being taught the ways of a human. Revolving demonic moon style. Su Yu's eyes were cold as he swept his sword horizontally. An arc of sword energy, 10 times larger than before, swept out. The Azura sword was a top-notch, true Emperor-level divine weapon, so it was naturally many times more powerful than Beauty Under the Moon. The 3 of them were still laughing when they saw Su Yu's sword energy. Their faces froze. Shan Xiong shouted, "Attack!" This man is a master of sword techniques. He, who had experienced hundreds of battles, could tell at a glance that this sword technique was profound. The 3 of them simultaneously used their powerful divine techniques, but they were all crushed by the arc of sword energy. Finally, the 3 of them were swept out of the enchantment by the arc of sword energy like ants. But they were still the bronze overlords, and their divine techniques had blocked the sword energy, so they were not seriously injured. Shan Xiong was infuriated and shouted, "Surnamed Shui, how dare you? Get lost." Su Yu had completely lost his patience. Dark Night Meteor Thrust. In an instant, the Azura sword produced sparks. "Ah, puff no." "Ah." In an instant, screams could be heard. The 3 of them were all sent flying, their injuries more serious than the previous 2. One more word, and don't blame me for being disrespectful. Su Yu was extremely annoyed. Also, tell the person who ordered you not to provoke me. Finally, Su Yu looked at Lan Yu and said coldly, "Miss Lan, I appreciate your kindness. Please go back." Lan Yu hurriedly explained, "Brother Shui, you misunderstood. I did not ask them to cause you trouble. They said they wanted to see you. I really did not." Sensing Su Yu's coldness, Lan Yu was a little flustered. Originally, Lan Yu did not take Su Yu seriously after she had gotten close to the merciless Saber Emperor. However, after personally witnessing Su Yu wipe out the 3 great bronze overlords of the Red Leaf Pavilion branch with a single stroke of his sword, his heart was in turmoil. It turned out that killing the 10 great corpse-loving dogs with a single sword strike was only the tip of the iceberg. His true strength and potential were unfathomable. Su Yu replied calmly, "I know, and you don't need to explain anything. Now, I just want to have some peace and quiet. Miss Lan, please go ahead." She didn't have any intention of opposing Su Yu, but when her senior brothers attacked him, she didn't even say a word of support. Lan Yu was resentful, and she opened her mouth to say something to ease the tension between them. However, when she met Su Yu's ice-cold gaze, she could only take her leave. Then, Big Brother Shui, I'm leaving, Lan Yu said carefully. Her heart was filled with regret. The reason why she had watched from the sidelines was because she felt that protecting Su Yu would put her on bad terms with her senior brothers. Between Su Yu and his senior brothers, who was more important? Of course, it was the senior brothers. She had always been a calculative woman. She had analyzed the pros and cons very clearly, so it was not strange for her to make such a choice. However, it was a pity that Su Yu's explosive potential had given her quite shock. How could she not regret that such an assistant, whom she could have used, had created a rift between them? Walking out of the mountain, Lan Yu became more and more regretful as she thought about it. The more she regretted it, the more she hated it. She turned her head to look at Su Yu's back and muttered to herself, "Humph, what are you so arrogant about? Aren't you just slightly stronger? But can you be stronger than the merciless Saber Emperor?" As she thought about it, Lan Yu felt relieved. She swung her hair and left. Not long after, in a secret chamber in the Starry Tower, Shan Xiong's mouth was stained with blood, and he lowered his head in shame. Everyone else, including Wei LV, did the same. In front of them, a young man with snow-white hair and a pale face stood with his hands behind his back, but his lips were bright red. Shan Xiong said, "That's what happened. According to Big Brother's request, we tested his cultivation and trump cards." Such a shocking strength really gave Shan Xiong and the others quite a shock. He looked like a level 3 Cavern World Senior, but his strength was as high as a bronze overlord's. Bai Shiwejian's lips curled into a contemptuous smile. "Not bad, but that's all." Shan Xiong and the others did not feel that Bai Shiwejian's evaluation was arrogant at all, because in the eyes of a silver overlord, being able to defeat a bronze overlord was not worth mentioning. "Big Brother, then our injuries." Wei LV was resentful. Bai Shiwejian said indifferently, "That depends on Shui Yu's luck. If he runs into me, I will return your injuries tenfold to him." Elsewhere in the Starry Tower, the female cabinet master listened to Mu Songhai's report, her eyes glistening. "It's really unexpected that Shui Yu is the representative of the ancient corpse faction," the female cabinet master murmured to herself. "Then, he is proficient in all kinds of alien languages. Could it be that he also came from the ancient corpse faction? Only the mysterious ancient corpse faction could have created a mutant who was proficient in the languages of various races." In the ancient corpse faction's house, Ravenous Wolf Star put his hands in his sleeves and said worriedly, "Young master, it is only right for you to teach them a lesson. Everyone can see that they deliberately provoked you, forcing you to make a move in order to find out more about you. If I'm not mistaken, it should be by Shiwejian's doing. This person has great potential, only below Shui Guanyin, but he is exceptionally vengeful. When we reach the ancient dream altar, young master still needs to be careful." Su Yu said indifferently, "So, who do you think will be more unlucky if Bai Shiwejian runs into me?" Ravenous Wolf Star smiled meaningfully. "Haha, I can't help but pray for Bai Shiwejian. Please don't run into you at the ancient dream altar." Su Yu said meaningfully, "If he isn't too unlucky, he probably won't provoke me. After all, he wanted to rebuild his body." The next evening, the Snow Dragon Emperor sent an emissary to lead Su Yu into the Emperor's palace and straight to the famous Yin Yang hot spring. In the depths of the palace, there was an extremely dense Yin and Yang energy. It was as dense as a mist, making it difficult for people to breathe. "What a dense Yin and Yang energy!" Su Yu secretly exclaimed. There was a Taoist saying that Yin and Yang form Tai Chi. Tai Chi gave birth to Yin and Yang and Yang gave birth to all things. The source of everything came from Yin and Yang. The Yin-Yang hot spring could rebuild one's body, change one's breath, and change everything from a source. It was not without purpose. "Young master, I will escort you here," the emissary said. Su Yu asked, "Is there anything I need to pay attention to? Or is there any kind of taboo?" The emissary said respectfully, "Just don't go too deep. If the yin and yang energy is too dense, it will have the opposite effect on the body. Opposite effect? Tell me in detail, Suyu said. The emissary's expression was a little strange. Men are yang, and women are yin. If you go to a place where the yin and yang energy is too dense, if you're not careful and absorb too much yin energy, you may become a woman. Suyu was stunned. When he imagined the scene of himself becoming a woman, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Otherwise, if he entered the depths unknowingly, the consequences would be unimaginable. Arriving at the side of the yin-yang hot spring, a trace of remnant desolate power lingered in the pool. A divine warrior just left? Suyu was surprised. Currently, in the palace of the Shui Nation in the Northern Territory, apart from the divine warrior of Snow Dragon himself, only the cabinet master of the Star Pavilion was at the level of a divine warrior of heaven and earth. And without the permission of the divine warrior of Snow Dragon, no one could enter the yin-yang hot spring. What is the divine warrior of Snow Dragon doing in the hot spring? Suyu had a trace of doubt in his heart. Shaking his head slightly, Suyu did not think too much about it and stepped into the yin-yang hot spring. All of a sudden, Suyu felt like he had fallen into a furnace, and his whole body seemed to be melting. In fact, he was indeed melting. From his hair to his skin, from his muscles to his bones, his whole body was melting. Suyu's soul left his body and stared at his body melting in the yin-yang hot spring, turning into a 10-foot wide black and white liquid in the hot spring. That was the source that Suyu's body had transformed into, the source of everything with the yin and yang energy. According to the ravenous wolf star, Suyu's soul blew a breath toward the liquid, which was full of Suyu's scent. When the breath landed on the black body, the liquid seemed to come to life, and with that breath as the center, it reformed into a human form. His height, facial features, hair, fur, and scent were all reshaped. Bit by bit, he was back to the old Suyu. Looking at his long-lost body, Suyu could not help but feel relieved. Shuiyu, I'll borrow your body for a year. Thank you very much, Suyu said lightly, and entered the new Suyu's body. In an instant, Suyu's soul felt extremely comfortable, as if he had returned to his own home. No matter how much Suyu's soul merged with Shuiyu's body, it was not his own body after all. How could it be more comfortable than his own body? Suyu could not help but let out a soft moan of comfort as he examined his own body. Every aspect was exactly the same as the body that had been taken away. The yin-yang hot spring is really a mysterious thing of heaven and earth. Wait. Suddenly, Suyu felt that something was wrong. My cultivation. He was surprised to find that his cultivation, which should have been a level 3 Cavern World Senior, had reached the level 1 Cavern World Senior after his energy and body had been reconstructed. It was 2 whole levels higher. Suyu was amazed. According to common sense, the body was just a reconstruction, and the original cultivation would still be the same after the reconstruction. But to jump 2 levels in a row, such an incredible thing, was really puzzling. The reason why he could become a level 3 Cavern World Senior from a mortal fairy was because he had accumulated a lot of experience. But why did he become a level 1 Cavern World Senior from a level 3 Cavern World Senior? Was there a strong external force interfering during the reconstruction process? While he was thinking, Suyu's mind flashed, and he suddenly looked at the remaining power of desolation in the yin-yang hot spring. At this moment, there was not a trace left. Could it be that, during the reconstruction process, my body absorbed the power of desolation in the hot spring? Suyu suddenly realized. This was the only explanation that could explain it. The remaining power of desolation made me break through 2 levels in a row. Isn't the power of desolation of the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior too pure? Suyu had come into contact with many divine warriors. A trace of the power of desolation could make a strong man of the divine path rise by 2 levels, which was extraordinary. Chapter 1668. Keeping his doubts to himself, Suyu leaped out of the yin-yang hot spring. He clenched his fist, and a divine power that was far stronger than before revolved rapidly in his palm. The level 1 Cavern World Venerable's divine energy is abundant, 10 times stronger than it used to be. Suyu was overjoyed to have experienced such tyrannical divine energy for the first time. The same divine art that he had used in the past would definitely be much more powerful now. The breakthrough came just in time before I set off to the ancient dream altar. However, it's still not enough. Suyu's brows were faintly discernible. He and that tribulation transcender had never fought head-on. The exact strength of the other party was still unknown. If it was below the Silver Overlord rank, it would be fine. However, if it was above the Silver Overlord rank, he might not be able to win this battle. Instead, he might even fall into a hopeless situation. It was a pity that Suyu did not have the time. Law imprints could not exist forever. As time passed, they would gradually weaken. Now that half a year had passed, the mark was no longer as clear as before. If he didn't seize this opportunity and waited for the mark to disappear, then finding that tribulation transcender would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. Suyu clenched his fists tightly as he recalled Xia Jingyu, who had forgotten her past in the 9 Jade spiritual pearl. No matter how strong you are, I will make you pay for the harm you caused us in the past. Suyu's expression was firm, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Tick-tock. A line of small words dripped down from the ice coffin behind him. Yo, what a strong killing intent. This king is scared. Suyu snorted coldly in his heart. Your Excellency, you don't have to listen to my inner thoughts all the time, do you? Tick-tock. Hee, this king has taken a fancy to you, so of course I have to understand the feelings of my sweetheart. Who asked this king to be a shy girl? Young girl? Her? As Suyu recalled the beautiful female corpse in the ice coffin, the corners of his mouth could not help but twitch. She had absolutely nothing to do with the word young lady. Tick-tock. Speaking of which, after your body was reconstructed, you've become ridiculously handsome. This king is liking you more and more. I'm so excited that I can't sleep. Tick-tock. As the saying goes, beautiful men are hard to find. A beautiful man like you that can cause the downfall of nations is even harder to find. This king has decided that no matter what I have to sacrifice, I must obtain you. This king is serious. So he was speechless. He was already used to this lustful female corpse. You really talk a lot of nonsense. So you said coldly, Tick-tock. It's precisely because I talk so much nonsense that I can show this king's deep love for you. The shamelessness of the female corpse was close to that of someone Suyu knew. However, the thread of the conversation changed. However, about that so-called tribulation fairy, your worries are not unfounded. Suyu's gaze turned grave. What do you know? Tick-tock. Tribulation transcenders have mastered the path of tribulation since ancient times, and they are mysterious and unfathomable. There are many people who want to kill them, but they all ended up paying with their lives. Suyu asked, even if your strength is much higher than a tribulation fairy's? Tick-tock. That's right. The strength of a tribulation transcender is never measured by the level of one's cultivation. There are a lot of emperors who have died in the hands of tribulation transcenders of the overlord level. It's still too early for you to fight against a tribulation transcender. Suyu slowly closed his eyes. The female corpse was mysterious and unfathomable. Even though she was in awe of the tribulation fairy, she knew how terrifying they were. It seemed that he really needed to prepare a few powerful trump cards. Now that his cultivation had recovered, there were indeed 2 things that he needed to deal with. Tick-tock. My beloved concubine, don't worry. You are my man, and I will help you at the crucial moment. Suyu glanced at the ice coffin indifferently, then returned to the mountain without saying a word. Just like the day before, there were many unidentified people surrounding the mountain. However, Suyu's appearance had changed a lot, so no one could recognize that he was the Shueyu from the day before. When he was about to step into the mountain, he suddenly saw a cowardly, rat-headed man among the crowd. Its eyeballs were rolling, and it was looking at the mountain where Suyu lived. It seemed like it was looking for a way to sneak in. Half Moon, you came at the right time. Suyu's eyes flickered with a bright light. Half Moon revolved around the mountain. However, the houses at the peak of the mountain were all protected by powerful enchantments, so it would be difficult to sneak in. After thinking for a while, Half Moon quietly left the crowd and came to the foot of the mountain, where there were few people. He wanted to sneak into the houses at the peak of the mountain through the belly of the mountain, so as to avoid the protection of the enchantments. After observing carefully for a long time, he found a weak spot in the mountain. Sky-piercing jaws. His long, sharp mouth bit down on the weak spot. Along with a cracking sound, the hard mountain was bitten into pieces by the sky-reaching rat, and a man-sized hole was revealed. Hee, there is no place in the world that I can't reach in Half Moon. The sky-reaching rat chuckled and went in with his head. Unexpectedly, when half of his body went in, his exposed tail was stepped on by someone. A familiar voice with a faint smile floated into his ears. "Brother Half Moon, how have you been?" Half Moon was shocked at first. He was born to be proficient in space magic, and his perception of space was far superior to that of ordinary people. Someone appeared behind him, but did not cause any changes in the space, which meant that this person's attainments in space had completely crushed him. Back then, when he was not even a strong deity, he could appear and disappear unpredictably and steal the belongings of a strong overlord. And now, as a deity-level expert, he had been caught red-handed by someone. He had only experienced such an experience once. Hearing that familiar voice again, the sky-reaching rat shuddered and screamed, "It's you, Suyu." Suyu released his foot, and the sky-reaching rat retracted its body. It looked up and saw that it was really Suyu. It could not believe its eyes. "My God, you did not die, and you even escaped from that place." Suyu laughed. "Why? Only you are allowed to escape from the Taotai's cage, but I am not allowed to show myself." Half Moon was taken aback, and then laughed bitterly. "That's true. You are the king of the God Realm. If I could escape, there is no reason for you to be trapped inside." "The king of the God Realm?" Suyu was stunned. Half Moon's eyes were filled with admiration, and he laughed strangely. "Two great God Realms. Millions of races. Who doesn't know that you, Suyu, are the king of the two realms? Your actions have already shaken the spirits of the two realms. You do not know that you are the god of faith, respected by all in the God Realm, right? Back when the sinful lady was born, the demonic dragon broke the seal, and all kinds of demons and monsters appeared in the God Realm, causing harm everywhere. As a leader, Suyu led the strong men from all sides to attack. Although he did not manage to reseal the sinful lady in the end, that soul-stirring battle had cemented Suyu's position in the hearts of all the spirits. A shred of shame filled his heart. He had only brought out the spirits that he was familiar with, and the majority of the spirits of the God Realm were still trapped in the Taotai's cage. He really could not bear the title of the king of the God Realm. The two old friends reunited in a different place, and they talked about the days of the past. "Suyu, why are you here?" Half Moon was still in disbelief. Suyu asked why. "You joined the Starry Pavilion, but you have never heard of the name Shueyu?" "Ah, Shueyu?" Half Moon was shocked. "The famous Shueyu. How could I not know him?" "Wait, Suyu, Shueyu, could it be you?" Suyu smiled and nodded. "What do you think?" "This." Half Moon sucked in a breath of cold air. As expected of the king of the God Realm, no matter where he goes, he can do earth-shattering things. Shueyu had only been in the Starry Pavilion for a short time, but he had alarmed the chief pavilion master and the three great pavilion masters. How shocking was that? Suddenly, Half Moon slapped his head. "If you are Shueyu, isn't my mission this time to target you?" Suyu said, "I was just about to ask you. You are sneaking around my mountain. Are you trying to sneak in and steal some treasures?" Upon hearing that, Half Moon said miserably, "If I had known that Shueyu was Suyu, I would never have come." Life was unpredictable. Who would have thought that two old friends would reunite in such a way? Back then, he had stolen Suyu's Tai East Emperor Bell and was caught by Suyu. Now, he had come to steal again and was caught by Suyu again. He had only failed twice, and both times he had fallen into Suyu's hands. "Did Zhao Fu send you?" Suyu asked. Half Moon nodded. "Yes. When he found out that the influence represented by the coffin sent you, he deliberately asked me to steal your invitation to the ancient dream altar." Suyu said, "As expected." He paused, then said, Besides stealing my invitation, is there someone else's invitation? It's Mu Songhai's. Half Moon betrayed Zhao Fu without hesitation. He asked me to use a fake invitation to exchange for a real one. As expected, Suyu had guessed it the first time he saw Half Moon. Now it seemed that he was targeting Mu Songhai. A few days later, when the ancient dream altar opened, one could enter with an invitation. How would the Snow Dragon Emperor deal with Mu Songhai if he produced a fake invitation? The ancient dream altar was the place that the Snow Dragon Emperor valued the most. If someone were to produce a fake invitation and try to bluff their way through, would the Snow Dragon Emperor kill one as a warning to others to deter the rascals? The possibility was as high as 90%. This was a vicious plan. It was a death sentence for Mu Songhai. Where did you put her invitation? Suyu asked. Half Moon shrugged helplessly. I gave it to Zhao Fu. After pondering for a long time, Suyu's eyes flickered. Half Moon, are you under Zhao Fu's control? It was hard to imagine that a godly thief like Half Moon would willingly work for Zhao Fu. Half Moon nodded bitterly. Although I escaped from the Taotai's cage, I was transported to a sea of ferocious beasts. It was the people from the Yinchuan branch who passed by and saved me. Zhao Fu saw that my divine path was sparse and very useful, so he used drugs to control me. If I did not obey, I would not live past 10 days. Half Moon's eyes were filled with hatred. Now he gives me an antidote every month to stabilize me. He wants to control me forever. Suyu said, let me see what kind of poison it is. He used his divine energy to probe Half Moon's body. He discovered that there was an obscure energy in all his limbs and bones. It was attached to his body and was poisoning his bodily functions. After pondering for a long time, Suyu found a shred of memory. But the more he found it, the colder Suyu's gaze became. It's the rotting bones and heart-disturbing poison. Suyu's expression was cold. Chapter 1669. The worst part is that there is no antidote for this poison, or rather, only the poisoner knows the antidote. The recipe for the bone-corroding heart poison required 99 ingredients. Changing any one of them would change the toxicity. To create an antidote, one had to follow the recipe. Only Zhao Fu knew which 99 ingredients he used. No one else knew. Even if Half Moon could steal anything in the world, how could he steal Zhao Fu's memories? Hence, he was controlled by Zhao Fu. I'm afraid it's more serious than you think. Suyu's expression was grave. Even if there is a temporary antidote to suppress the toxicity, the bone-corroding heart poison is not as simple as you think. After arriving at the Great Beginning Realm, Suyu had read extensively. After joining the Starry Pavilion, he had gained a high level of authority. He had read many ancient books that could not be found on the market. His understanding of the bone-corroding heart poison was much better than Half Moon's. Half Moon said uneasily, if you have something to say, just say it. Suyu said, there is no temporary antidote for this poison. What Zhao Fu gave you was another poison to suppress the spread of the bone-corroding heart poison. Right now, in your body, besides the bone-rotting heart poison, there are more than 80 kinds of deadly poisons. In less than 3 years, your cultivation will regress, and you will die in 5 years. You will die before the bone-rotting heart poison takes effect. What? Even though Half Moon had mentally prepared himself, he was still shocked. How is that possible? I have checked myself. Besides the bone-corroding heart poison, there are no other poisons in my body. Suyu said, that is because the bone-corroding heart poison has a special effect that few people know about. What is it? That is, it can absorb other poisons. Suyu said, the 80 poisons are all hidden within the bone-corroding heart poison. Of course, you cannot detect it. The reason Suyu could detect it was because among the tens of thousands of divine paths he had mastered, one of them was related to poison. Hence, he could easily detect poisons that Half Moon could not detect. Lord Su, do you have a way to save me? I don't want to die yet. Half Moon stared at Suyu. Suyu shook his head. In the past, it would have been easy to remove the poison. But now, there's nothing I can do. If the Milky Way star sand was still in his hands, how difficult would it be to dispel this bit of poison? Unfortunately, This item had already been stolen by Dao Lord Xianming. A trace of paleness appeared on his face as he clenched his fists tightly, his eyes filled with deep hatred. Zhao Fu, how dare you lie to me? I will fight to the death with you. Knowing that her death was near, and that there was no way to save her, Half Moon wanted to perish together with her enemy. Wait, so you said, we are not at the final step yet. Why give up? But the poison in my body. Half Moon was disheartened. Suyu said, although I don't have a solution, Zhao Fu does. The one who started the trouble should be the one who started it. If we can obtain Zhao Fu's formula, everything will be solved. What about the remaining 80 poisons? Suyu said, the rotting bones poison absorbs the remaining poisons, which is both a disadvantage and an advantage. If we can neutralize the rotting bones poison, the poisons it absorbs will also be completely eliminated. Half Moon's expression became much better, but he was still troubled. Zhao Fu is a cautious person. Back then, I had thought of stealing the excess rotting bones poison from his refinement, but he destroyed all the excess. In this world, besides his own memories, no one knows what ingredients he used in his refinement. Suyu's lips curled into a meaningful smile. Then, why don't you just let him tell you himself? Half Moon was confused, but he quickly realized that Suyu was famous in the God realm for his demon-like wisdom. He could not help but feel slightly agitated. Ward Su, please save me. Suyu's lips curled. It's simple. Just do as I say. At the peak of the starry tower, Zhao Fu's expression was relaxed. He was lying in the courtyard, happily flipping through ancient books. He was in a good mood. Haha, mood Songhai. Let's see what you will do in 3 days. When that time comes, even the chief cabinet master might not be able to save you. Now all that is left is that wretched little bastard. Zhao Fu's eyes were filled with hatred. But you're almost there. As long as Half Moon exchanges the invitation, I will send you and Mu to Songhai, to the afterlife. As for me, I will devise a strategy that will determine victory from 1,000 miles away. I will effortlessly consign you to eternal damnation. Zhao Fu laughed loudly. Whoosh! A mysterious and unfathomable figure appeared 10 feet in front of him with the help of a spatial divine technique. Zhao Fu did not need to sense carefully to know who it was. His eyes lit up. You got him so quickly? Quick, let me see. Half Moon had his hands behind his back, a cold smile on his face as he looked at Zhao Fu without blinking. Are you deaf? I'm asking you a question. Zhao Fu berated him out of habit. Half Moon's cold smile became even deeper. For the past year, Zhao Fu had treated him like a beast. He had been berated lightly, beaten and scolded heavily. He had lived a life of humiliation. However, Half Moon had been controlled by Zhao Fu. He had waited patiently for the day Zhao Fu gave him the antidote. Who knew that Zhao Fu had no intention of letting him go? Half Moon clasped his hands behind his back, coldly laughing. Did not succeed. Zhao Fu stared at him. What kind of attitude is that? You dare speak to me like that? He stepped forward, slapping at Half Moon. Half Moon took out a talisman. It was the powerful talisman that the Snow Dragon Emperor had given him. Zhao Fu was shocked by the aura that was suddenly emitted. He quickly retracted his hand and retreated backwards. Half Moon, where did you get this? Ha! Half Moon mocked. What? Pavilion Master Zhao has used me for so long, but you don't know what I do. You stole it? Zhao Fu sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes were filled with joy. An Emperor-level protection talisman. Heavens, that was an undying talisman. With this talisman, the 9 Pavilion Masters would have to be polite. Half Moon, quickly give it to me. I'll give you the antidote for 3 months. Zhao Fu was extremely excited. Who would have guessed that Half Moon's mocking expression became even deeper? Are you an idiot? With this talisman, why should I listen to you like a dog? Just crush this talisman, and I can send you on your way 100 times. Zhao Fu's eyes narrowed, probing threateningly. Half Moon, you don't seem to care about the rotting bones heart poison at all? Without the temporary antidote, the poison will quickly flare up. Half Moon gave a disdainful smile. The temporary antidote is another poison? It could be seen that Zhao Fu's body slightly trembled. His tone was fierce. Who told you? Speak. Half Moon coldly said, an old friend. Where did your old friend come from? Zhao Fu was deeply suspicious. Never mind. Since you know that the rotting bones heart poison has no antidote, then do you still want the real antidote? Be obedient, and I'll give it to you now. Otherwise, the pain of the rotting bones heart poison, I think you've already tasted it. Huh? Zhao Fu, why do you think I came back? Half Moon disdainfully said, I came to bid farewell to you. In this year, I've done many things for you. I've already repaid the debt of saving you. We don't owe each other anything. Farewell. Zhao Fu was shocked. Don't tell me that the poison has been cured. Half Moon coldly smiled. What do you think? Goodbye, Zhao Fu. Go be someone else's dog. I won't be accompanying you. When he finished speaking, he turned around and left in a carefree manner without the slightest hesitation. Stop! Zhao Fu roared. How could he let go of such a valuable helper? Half Moon didn't even turn his head. He waved the Emperor-level talisman in his hand. Zhao Fu stopped abruptly. He angrily clenched his fists as he stared at Half Moon disappearing from his sight. Impossible. I created the rotting bones heart poison myself. Who can cure it? Zhao Fu still didn't believe it. But from Half Moon's expression and actions, he couldn't help but doubt it. If he didn't completely get rid of it, why would Half Moon dare to be so arrogant? There are some treasures in this world that can cure poisons. Could it be that Half Moon found one by accident? Zhao Fu couldn't help but think. Or is it that mysterious old friend of his? The rotting bones heart poison could absorb other poisons. Not many people knew about this. Zhao Fu had inadvertently seen it in an extremely unremarkable ancient book. If Half Moon's old friend knew about it, it was very likely that he was a poison master. It wouldn't be strange if he had a treasure that could counter poisons. Preposterous. Zhao Fu was enraged. Men, follow Half Moon. We must find out who his old friend is. Several afterimages flashed outside the house and disappeared. He waved his hand, and a spatial ripple appeared beside him. In the ripple, a large door appeared. There were many complicated stars on the door. Zhao Fu used his fingers to arrange a few of the stars. The door opened, revealing a small space. It was Zhao Fu's personal storage space. Not only was it well hidden, normal people wouldn't know where it was. There was also a formation set up. Only by knowing the correct order of the stars could one open the door. It was extremely secretive. Entering the door, Zhao Fu came to a wooden box. There was an old formula in the box. Staring at the formula, Zhao Fu was enraged. Looks like it really was that so-called old friend who cured the rotting bones heart poison. Damn it! With a gloomy face, he left the space and closed the door again. At the same time, the order of the stars was disrupted. What he did not know was that in the clouds above the star pavilion, there was a silver-haired young man with a pair of pale eyes that could see his every move clearly. With a smile, the silver-haired youth blended into a space. When he reappeared, he quietly appeared in front of the stone door hidden in the space. Looking at the disrupted star formation, the silver-haired youth rearranged a few of the stars. Creak! The large door opened and the silver-haired youth entered leisurely. He first came to the wooden box and put it in his sleeve. Then there were two invitations to the ancient dream altar. One was Mu Songhai's and the other was his. The silver-haired youth smirked. He couldn't help but take Mu Songhai's and Zhao Fu's. Not only that, but he also left behind two fake invitations. They were all made by Half Moon and were difficult to detect without careful observation. Ha! Pavilion Master Zhao. See you later. The silver-haired youth was naturally Suyu. He smiled and prepared to leave. Unexpectedly, the stone door opened again. Suyu was shocked. Could it be that Zhao Fu had discovered something strange and had come to investigate? Without hesitation, Suyu hid behind screen. Activating his transparent eye, Suyu quietly probed. In the end, he was shocked to discover that it was a woman shrouded in light who had sneaked into Zhao Fu's storage space. Chapter 1670. The woman's search was very targeted. She turned a blind eye to the small items and only observed the larger ones in detail. The space was completely searched. The woman stood in front of the screen and muttered to herself, "There's no such thing. It's not him." Was she trying to confirm someone's identity? So you saw it clearly. "I've come here for nothing. Time to go." Shaking her head and sighing, the woman turned around and headed for the exit. However, just as she turned around, her eyes flashed coldly. Without warning, she shot out an ice needle at the screen behind her. She had noticed Suyu's presence, but pretended not to know. Only now did she strike without warning. An ordinary person would have been struck if they were not on guard. However, Suyu had been on guard since the woman had appeared. Before she could strike, Suyu had already reacted. Dark Knight Meteor Thrust. Suyu held the Azura sword and pointed out a fiery red flower. Poof! The ice needle was extinguished, and the remaining cold energy flipped the screen over, revealing Suyu, who was hiding behind it. The woman shouted coldly, "Who are you?" Suyu had changed his appearance, and no one in the great beginning realm knew who he was. She had seen Shueyu, but not Suyu. Suyu's silver hair fluttered as he said calmly, "And who are you? I ask, you answer." The woman said coldly with a murderous look. Even more murderous intent spread through the space. She wanted to silence him. Suyu shrugged. "I have the same goal as you, to take something." Her expression softened slightly. "You're not Zhao Fu's man?" "Huh, do you think I would be indifferent if I were Zhao Fu's man?" Suyu said calmly. The woman's expression softened again. It looked like she had given up on silencing him. However, just as Suyu let his guard down, she struck again without warning. A cold sword covered in ice suddenly pierced out from her wide sleeves. Suyu laughed angrily. "Empress Ziwei, if you want to alarm Zhao Fu, I'll accompany you to the end." Such cold energy, such powerful cultivation, in the body of a woman. Her identity was not difficult to guess. The descendant of the snow dragon divine warrior, Empress Ziwei. She was much more powerful than the likes of Bai Shuejian. Boundless demonic faction. Suyu's Azura sword slashed out a pitch-black crack. A giant sword shrouded in demonic chi descended from the crack, emitting an astonishing pressure. The same move, but with different cultivation levels and weapons, the power it could unleash would be vastly different. The power of this sword was 3 times stronger than when it killed Wild God. Even among the Silver Overlords, that pressure was at the peak. The powerful sword chi stirred the whole space, and Empress Ziwei was shocked. A mere first heaven grotto abode, universe venerable, can use a move at the level of a Silver Overlord? She had assumed that she could easily kill Suyu. She did not expect that Suyu would create such a great disturbance. Almost without thinking, she gave up on the sword and leaped out of the space without another word. That strike, just now, must have alerted Zhao Fu. Although she was not afraid of Zhao Fu, she was wary of the Star Pavilion's pavilion master. Suyu immediately put away the sword and leaped out of the space. At the same time, he immediately used the space divine Dao and left this place with a single thought. Not long after they left, Zhao Fu sensed an anomaly in his storage space and went inside to investigate. Demonic chi, cold chi? Zhao Fu was shocked. Who snuck into my storage space? He scanned his surroundings and acutely discovered that something was missing. He flew into a rage. Half Moon, how dare you trick me? What was missing was the poison recipe for the rotting bones and heart-disrupting poison. He instantly realized that Half Moon had not actually detoxified the poison, but had deliberately set up a trap. Zhao Fu, who was suspicious, would certainly have checked for anything related to the antidote out of caution, and he had been tricked into coming here to investigate the deeply hidden poison recipe. Everything was within the opponent's calculations. The feeling of being fooled infuriated Zhao Fu, and he flew into a rage. Although he was furious, his mind was still clear, and he immediately checked the space to see if anything else was missing. During the inspection, he casually glanced at the invitation and found it was still there, so he did not examine it closely. He assumed that Half Moon's main target was the poison recipe, and that the invitation was useless to her. She would most likely not touch it. Moreover, it was still there, and Zhao Fu was careless and did not examine it carefully. Arriving outside, Suyu stared at Empress Ziwei, who was not far away. He had already removed his disguise and revealed his true appearance. Her beautiful, cold face was covered with murderous intent. It was probably because Suyu had seen the entire process that Empress Ziwei wanted to kill him. Suyu's expression was calm. What? Do you want to fight here? The Crystal Palace was filled with guests from all over. Once they started fighting, it would be very lively. Humph. I don't care who you are. You better watch your mouth. If you leak anything, I will take your life next time. In her eyes, Suyu was but an ant that could be easily crushed. The only reason he was still alive was because she could not kill him. With a flash of light, Empress Ziwei quickly left. Suyu calmly smiled. If they really fought, that talisman of the divine warrior of heaven and earth could kill her many times over. Turning around, Suyu arrived at a remote area of the Crystal Palace. Come out, Suyu said as he landed. Half Moon appeared, her eyes filled with anticipation. Lord Su, how was it? Suyu said, as expected, although Zhao Fu destroyed the excess rotting bones and heart-disrupting poison, he still kept the poison recipe. With a shake of his sleeves, Suyu took out a wooden box. Half Moon took the box and was overjoyed. Lord Su, I will never forget your kindness. Waving his hand, Suyu said, it was just a matter of convenience. Besides, I was able to give you a taste of your own medicine and get rid of an enemy. There is no need to thank me. No matter what, I will definitely repay Lord Su's kindness. Half Moon insisted. Suyu asked, what are your next plans? Half Moon thought for a moment, then said, I have read in Zhao Fu's ancient books that there is a group of rats that have existed since the beginning of time in the great beginning realm. Perhaps the heavenly rat bloodline is among them. I want to go and take a look. The Rat Clan? There was indeed such a clan in the great beginning realm, and they were among the top 3 among all the other clans. If Half Moon could return to the Rat Clan, it would be better than wandering in the outside world. Be careful on your journey. So you took out a space ring. It was Yi Shun's storage device. He did not have the time to check what was inside. Take this. Consider it your traveling expenses. Half Moon was moved. They had only met by chance and were merely acquaintances. However, Suyu not only saved him, but also gave him a huge gift. Half Moon was touched by Suyu's kindness. He bowed deeply. Lord Su, if I become outstanding in the future, I will repay Lord Su's kindness 1,000 times over. After taking the space storage device, Half Moon bowed again and left the Crystal Palace. Suyu sighed. I wonder who else besides Half Moon has come to the great beginning realm. After a while, Suyu returned to the ancient corpse faction's mountain peak. After informing Li Yu and Ravenous Wolf Star, Suyu immediately went into seclusion. Before the battle with the Tribulation Fairy, he had to prepare more trump cards. In the secret room, Suyu took out a petrified dragon bone. The stone dragon bone sword. Suyu murmured softly as he stared at the dragon bone. This sword was a magical object that Jian Xian had spent decades to excavate. Suyu even learned about the sword's origin from the remains of a divine dragon. This sword was a mysterious bone sword that was spat out by a giant dragon with a crown on its head before it died. Sword Ruxiong is just a silver overlord, but he thought he could rely on this sword to fight against the divine warriors of heaven and earth. This sword must be extraordinary. Suyu stroked the bone sword. He tried to refine it again, but it was the same as before. He couldn't refine it at all. It was as if something was missing. Is it the dragon pearl that was spat out together with the sword? Suyu's eyes were shining. He waved his left palm again, and a huge stone sword appeared in the secret room. If the secret room was not a huge cavern world, the size of a stone sword would have destroyed the secret room. Touching the stone sword at such a close distance, the faint sense of intimacy lingered in his heart again. Stone sword, stone dragon bone sword. Suyu's eyes flashed, and he punched the stone sword. The surface of the stone sword rippled with a layer of ripples, easily dispelling the punch. Even a level 1 Cavern World Master can't shake it. The stone sword really is something, Suyu murmured. As the existence of Jian Xian, the fact that a stone sword could spontaneously produce a secret book of swordsmanship was extraordinary in itself. There must be something strange within the stone sword. Since Fist couldn't do it, Suyu took out the Azura sword. As a result, when the sword hit it, it was still bounced off by the ripples. Even the Azura sect sword can't break it. So he was getting more and more interested. Next, he tried many methods, but the stone sword was invulnerable, and there was no trace of it being broken. After several failed attempts, Suyu stopped. When he glanced at the stone dragon bone sword beside him, his heart moved slightly. He grabbed the stone dragon bone sword and slashed at the stone sword. Crack! A scene that made Suyu's brow slightly happy appeared. The stone sword was like soft mud, and a piece was easily cut off by the stone dragon bone sword. It really works. Suyu's eyes were filled with joy, and he continued to slash with the ancient sword. As pieces of stone fell, the stone sword that was 10,000 feet tall was finally only 10 feet tall. A long, transparent sword stood quietly in front of Suyu. Divine dragon power? Incredible. Suyu was amazed. The long sword in front of him was not a physical object, but a condensation of the incomparably powerful divine dragon power. Such a strong divine power was second only to the epic-making dragon and the world annihilation dragon. Suyu held the divine dragon power long sword in his left hand and the stone dragon bone sword in his right. After a little thought, the two swords became one. The stone dragon bone sword easily merged with the long sword formed by the divine dragon power. The surface of the stone dragon bone sword gradually cracked, and then layers of jade chips peeled off and gradually dissolved. The true appearance of the stone dragon bone sword was gradually revealed. It did not look like a piece of dragon bone at all. It was clearly a white jade dragon sword. The sword hilt in Suyu's hand was the dragon's tail. The long and narrow body of the sword was the dragon's body, and the sharp tip of the sword was the dragon's head. At a glance, what kind of sword was this? It was clearly a 3-foot white jade dragon. Waves of surging vitality burst forth from the dragon's sword, pulsing in Suyu's palm as if it would fly to the 9 heavens in the next moment. At the same time, a clear current flowed into Suyu's body through the sword hilt. A strange piece of information immediately appeared in his mind. The royal dragon sword. Suyu softly recited the information in his mind. The dragon clan, the token of the dragon emperors. The one who holds a royal dragon sword commands the dragon clan. Traces of shock appeared in his eyes. Chapter 1671. Suyu finally understood why Jian Ruxiong valued this piece of dragon bone so much. For this, he mobilized the entire faction to search for Suyu throughout the Jinshin Ocean. What Jinshin had spent so much effort on finally fell into Suyu's hands. Then, more information appeared in Suyu's mind. It was about the specific details of the Royal Dragon Sword. According to the information, the Royal Dragon Sword was forged by the first Dragon Emperor using his own dragon spine. The body of the sword naturally retained the 3 most powerful dragon divine techniques of the first Dragon Emperor. Its power was extremely powerful. Even the simplest first stroke could compete with the divine warriors of heaven and earth. As for the next 2 strokes, although the information did not elaborate, it was obvious that they were definitely stronger than the first stroke. A trace of excitement lingered in Suyu's heart. The strength of this sword was far superior to the Azura sword. Of course, the consequences of forcibly using the Royal Dragon Sword were quite serious. Like a child wielding a giant sword that weighed 100 pounds, he might be crushed by the weight of the sword before he could even hurt the enemy. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would never try it. The lowest realm to wield this sword was the cultivation of an overlord. Without such a realm, no matter how the Royal Dragon Sword was waved, it would not release any power. Overlord realm? Suyu frowned slightly. He had just become a level 1 Cavern World Master and had not had time to consolidate it. How difficult would it be to break through to the Overlord level again? Whether he could break through the Overlord realm and master this sword before he met a Tribulation Fairy was completely unknown. Suddenly, Suyu felt a warmth pass through his palm. Moving his palm away, he found that there was a transparent crystal bead the size of a thumb in the hole in the center of the sword hilt. The surging dragon power filled the bead, providing the Royal Dragon Sword with a steady stream of dragon power. Only in this way could the Royal Dragon Sword unleash the powerful dragon divine technique. It seems like the long sword formed by the power of the divine dragon hidden in the stone sword is the dragon pearl that the dragon emperor spat out that disappeared without a trace. Suyu came to a sudden realization. No wonder when he came into close contact with the stone sword, he triggered a reaction from the stone sword. It turned out that the dragon pearl was inside the stone sword. Suyu had cultivated the dragon forbidden technique, the dragon abyss treasure scroll, so the dragon pearl sensed it and mistook Suyu for a dragon. After sorting out the cause and effect, Suyu's lips curled into a faint smile. Epic-making dragon. Oh, epic-making dragon. You didn't expect this, did you? The dragon abyss treasure scroll that you tricked me into cultivating back then has helped me instead. I wonder what kind of expression you'll have if you find out now. Suyu couldn't help but think to himself. At the same time, a thought flashed through Suyu's mind. He clearly remembered that Yongye Chioma had obtained the epic-making dragon's dragon pearl, which allowed him to leap from a god to an overlord. Now that the dragon orb of the dragon emperor was in his hands, could he also? Suyu's heart thumped with excitement. Filled with anticipation, Suyu first consolidated his cultivation base. He had unexpectedly broken through to the first heaven cave abode world venerable, and his divine power was exceptionally huge, so he needed to carefully sort it out. 3 days later, Suyu slowly opened his eyes. 2 beams of light were flickering in his eyes, and his whole body's essence, energy, and spirit had changed. Although he didn't move, he gave off an abnormally strong sense of oppression. According to the ancient books, one needs to go through a very difficult period to achieve a breakthrough to become an overlord, Suyu recalled. An overlord was stronger than a cave abode world venerable because the divine power of an overlord was far more abundant than that of a cave abode world venerable. If the divine power of a first heaven cave abode world venerable was 1, then the divine power of a bronze overlord was 10. There was a difference of 1 level, but the divine power was 10 times greater. The divine crystal of a peak cave abode world venerable was already full of divine power. How could it continue to accommodate divine power that was 10 times stronger? Therefore, another space had to be opened up to store divine power. That space was called the inner mansion. Opening up the inner mansion was the process of becoming an overlord of the galaxy. This process was usually very difficult, relying on one's own efforts to open up the inner mansion bit by bit, at least 100 years, at most 1,000 years. More than 90% of the cave abode world venerables were forever stuck in the process of opening up the inner mansion, unable to become an overlord in their lifetime. Those overlord-level geniuses broke through and became overlords at a young age, usually with the help of powerful experts of the faction, who persistently opened up the inner mansion with the help of powerful divine power. For example, the Star Pavilions by Shuejian, the Merciless Saber Emperor's successor, and the Snow Dragon Emperor's successor, Empress Siwei. Of course, there were very few exceptions, such as the Star Pavilion's Shueguanin. She was born with a blood lotus in her mouth, and her cultivation progressed at a tremendous pace with divine help. She had no elders to help her. The reason she was able to open up the inner mansion in such a short time was probably because of the mysterious blood lotus. Suyu had no elders, but like the blood guanyin, he had an extraordinary treasure with him, the Dragon Ball. With the help of the endless and powerful divine dragon power, opening up the inner mansion was just around the corner. And with the help of the divine dragon power, he could imitate Yongye Chioma and refine the Dragon Ball. Unfortunately, time was running out. 3 days had passed, and the opening day of the ancient dream altar was approaching. He could only try to refine it slowly on the way. When he opened the door of the secret room, Liu was in sight. She smiled calmly. "I thought you were in seclusion for too long. How are your preparations?" Suyu asked. Liu was startled. "You want to take me there? Don't you want to go?" Suyu smiled. Liu nodded. "I want to, but I don't want to be a burden to you." She thought she was mediocre, but she had a stubborn side in her heart. Just like that night under the moon, she showed her unyielding heart of martial arts that was bound by the Double Star Island. Suyu shrugged. "I'm just taking you in along the way. As for what you find, it's all up to you." Blinking her eyes, Liu smiled gently. "Thank you." After the preparations were complete, They connected to the ravenous wolf star, and everyone arrived at the palace of the snow dragon divine warrior. At the birthday banquet 3 days ago, Shueyu had amazed everyone. This time, many people were paying attention to Shueyu. To their regret, Shueyu did not show up. Instead, he was replaced by an unfamiliar young man they had never seen before, a handsome, silver-haired young man who kept a low profile. Noticing that he was with Li Yu and the ravenous wolf star, some of the smarter ones could not help but speculate. Could that silver-haired young man be Shueyu? It's highly possible. You should remember Shueyu's request to the snow dragon divine warrior, right? The Yin-Yang hot spring. No, but there were also people who objected. Although the Yin-Yang hot spring can change one's appearance and breath, it can't change one's cultivation. A level 3 Cavern World senior breaking through to level 1 overnight. Do you think it's possible? The possibility is 0, a very experienced elder said with certainty. Think about the Starry Pavilion's Shui Guanyin, the merciless Saber Emperor successor, and the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior's successor, Emperor Siwei. Which one of them is not a genius? But none of them broke through from level 3 to level 1 in one go. If that's the case for the 3 heaven rulers, do you think that Shueyu is qualified to be compared to the 3 heaven rulers? Zhao Fu, who was watching from the side, snorted. Is he qualified? He's not even qualified to carry shoes for the 3 of them. As for Shueyu's cultivation base, he looked down on it. He better not come to the ancient dream altar. Otherwise, I'll tear him into pieces. Zhao Fu was furious. Every time he thought of his son dying tragically in Su Yu's hands, he wished he could crush Su Yu's bones with his own hands to vent his hatred. His cold eyes glanced around. Until the arrival of the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior, he did not see Shueyu. Disappointment was written all over his face. He said angrily, "It's all because of that traitor, Half Moon." He alerted the enemy and caused Shueyu to lose his invitation letter. The perfect plan of killing 2 birds with 1 stone has only been completed halfway. Through the crowd, Zhao Fu looked at the back of Mu Songhai, who was standing in the distance. Traces of sinister, snake-like cold light flashed across the depths of his eyes. Mu Songhai, the show is about to begin. The blood debt you owe my ancestor will be settled today. Zhao Fu said hatefully. In fact, 30,000 years had passed since then. No matter how deep the hatred was, it had gradually faded. His obsession was not so much to complain about the injustice of his ancestor's death. It was more to say that he was angry at his own unsatisfactory present. If his ancestor was still alive, how could the current Zhao Fu be a mere pavilion branch master? If he did not kill Mu Songhai, Zhao Fu would not be able to swallow his anger. After the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior arrived, he looked around with a smile. Not bad, not bad. The participants of the Ancient Dream Altar this year are much more outstanding than in previous years. This year's Heartless Saber Emperor, Empress Siwei, and Shui Guanyin were all powerful heaven rulers. Apart from them, there were also many young talents with excellent qualifications, such as Bai Shuejian. In the past Ancient Dream Altar, Bai Shuejian's qualifications would have been number 1. Unfortunately, this year, he might not even be able to enter the top 4. The intensity of this year's competition could be imagined. According to the previous rules, before the Ancient Dream Altar descends, I will personally verify the invitation letter to prevent people from sneaking in. Everyone present took out their invitation letters and held them in their hands. They were already very familiar with this kind of rule. Zhao Fu took out his own invitation letter. He did not look at it carefully, because most of his attention was focused on Mu Songhai. The invitation letter in her hand was a fake one that had been swapped. Zhao Fu could not imagine what the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior's expression would be like when he found out that someone was bold enough to use a fake invitation letter to sneak in. In his mind, he imagined the scene of the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior being enraged and killing Mu Songhai with 1 finger, destroying his body and soul. As he thought about it, he could not help but tremble, and the corners of his mouth involuntarily revealed a crazy smile. Mu Songhai was completely unaware of it. He held the invitation letter in his hand and stood respectfully, waiting for the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior's gaze to investigate. The Snow Dragon Divine Warrior had a smile on his face as he scanned the invitation letters of everyone present. In the past hundreds of ancient Dream Altar, checking the invitation letters had always been just a formality. Who would have the guts to cheat in front of the Divine Warrior of heaven and earth? Even the slightest flaw would be seen through by the Snow Dragon Divine Warrior. Anyone with a little bit of intelligence would never take the risk. Therefore, although the people present looked respectful, they were actually relaxed. It was just a formality. What accident could there be? Among them, several people were secretly discussing various matters after entering the ancient Dream Altar. They did not pay any attention to the inspection in front of them. The Snow Dragon Divine Warrior seemed to have scanned them one by one, but in reality, he had scanned them all in an instant. Chapter 1672. As these words were said, the originally quiet crowd suddenly became deathly silent. Those secret conversations, like being cut off by a sharp arrow, came to an abrupt end. Unbelievable. There's an idiot that dares to use a fake invitation? Which small force did this? To be so daring. They evidently do not know the terror of the Emperor. Ha. Interesting to be able to see a fake invitation. What a reckless fellow. The dignity of the Emperor cannot be offended. To dare use a fake invitation in front of him, no one can save him. A single stone caused 1,000 ripples. Everyone present was shocked. Of course, they all subconsciously checked their invitation to prevent any mistakes. Confirming that the invitation in their hands was absolutely genuine, they all relaxed and watched the show in peace. They want to know which idiot it was. Zhao Fu almost could not hold back his laughter. Finally, this moment, he had waited for so long. The calm face of the Snow Dragon Emperor was gradually invaded by cold air. Wisps of terrifying cold air began to revolve around his body. Everyone's heart could not help but beat wildly. Enraged, the Snow Dragon Emperor was enraged. The rage of the Emperor could turn the heavens and earth upside down. That idiot, he really did a stupid thing. He will regret this for the rest of his life. That is if the Snow Dragon Emperor is willing to give him the chance to regret. The Snow Dragon Emperor's eyes darkened. I really did not think that a branch leader of the Star Pavilion would dare to lie in front of me. You think that with the Star Pavilion behind you, with 3 pavilion masters and a chief pavilion leader, you do not put me in your eyes? If that's the case, then congratulations. You are gravely mistaken. The Snow Dragon Emperor's killing intent erupted. Everyone was shocked hearing this. What? A branch leader of the Star Pavilion? That's impossible, right? The branch leaders of the Star Pavilion, every one of them is the elite of the various races. Their minds are far more agile than the majority of beings. How could a pavilion leader do such a stupid thing? It's over. If it's a being from a small force, the Snow Dragon Emperor may not be so angry. But from the Star Pavilion, they're relying on the prestige of the Star Pavilion to look down on the Snow Dragon Emperor. This person is really over. The Snow Dragon Emperor has unleashed his killing intent. Sensing the killing intent of the Snow Dragon Emperor, Zhao Fu's sinister smile deepened. Staring at the back of Mu Songhai, he said darkly, Mu Songhai, farewell. Come out. The Snow Dragon Sovereign said coldly. Zhao Fu stared at Mu Songhai without blinking, the corners of his mouth hooked up in a vicious smile. But Mu Songhai remained motionless and had no intention of stepping forward. Zhao Fu thought to himself, could it be that Mu Songhai hasn't discovered that the invitation is fake? The Snow Dragon Emperor became even more enraged. I'm giving you a chance by letting you stand out. Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for not giving face to the Star Pavilion. He slammed the table, and a bone-chilling cold spread from the table to the bottom. Then, like an icy bolt of lightning, it swiftly passed through the crowd and froze the person who used the fake invitation letter. Zhao Fu laughed sinisterly, but as he laughed, he suddenly couldn't laugh anymore. Because when the ice thunder passed by Mu Songhai, it actually bypassed her feet and did not have any intention of freezing her. Instead, it was the ice thunder that dodged the people around it and shot straight at him. Zhao Fu's mind was blank. He thought to himself, could it be that Half Moon changed the wrong person? But the ice thunder mercilessly interrupted his guess. It came straight in front of Zhao Fu and stopped there. Zhao Fu was evidently taken aback. He was extremely puzzled. It was already inconceivable that it did not point at Mood Songhai. Why would it stop in front of him? Could it be that the Snow Dragon Sovereign had some misunderstanding, or that the ice thunder had made a mistake? Shwa, shwa, shwa. Everyone's gazes instantly focused on Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu? That's impossible. Would he use a fake invitation letter? Pavilion Master Zhao is famous for his resourcefulness. How could he use a fake invitation letter? Heavens! It can't be Zhao Fu. How could it be him? Not to mention them. Even Zhao Fu was shocked. He raised his head, saying to the Snow Dragon Sovereign, Sovereign, please investigate clearly. I abide by the rules of the ancient dream altar and would not dare to use a fake invitation letter. Sovereign, please make a decision. Make a decision? Why don't you take a look at what you have in your hand first? The Snow Dragon Sovereign was so angry that he almost laughed. Holding a fake invitation letter, but asking him, the Sovereign, to make a decision. This was simply the biggest joke in the world. Zhao Fu was taken aback. This was the first time he looked at the invitation letter in his hand. At first glance, there was nothing strange about it. Just as he was feeling strange, suddenly, a palm covered the invitation letter. The fluctuation of divine power caused the invitation letter to change. The invitation letter melted, turning into ordinary ice. If it was the ancient dream altar's invitation letter, after melting, it would turn into mysterious ice crystals and not ice. What is going on? Zhao Fu felt as though he was in a dream. The one in front of him was clearly a fake invitation letter that he had personally refined. It had already changed Mu Songhai's real invitation letter. In theory, it should be in Mu Songhai's hands. Why? Why did it return his hands? The Snow Dragon Sovereign's eyes were cold. You took a fake invitation letter to fool me, and now you ask me what is going on? Branch Pavilion Master Zhao, you really do not put me in your eyes. I did not. Someone framed me. Zhao Fu's forehead was full of sweat. It's her. It's Mood Songhai. Mood Songhai, who was curiously observing the situation, was inexplicably dragged into it. His face was blank. Pavilion Master Zhao, can you explain clearly? She really did not understand. Everything was fine. Why would Zhao Fu drag her into this? Zhao Fu roared. Mood Songhai, no need to pretend. It must be you who sent the fake invitation letter back. Oh, when he realized that his words were wrong, it was already too late. Who here was not a crafty person? The word sent back was enough to explain many problems. The Snow Dragon Sovereign's eyes flashed, and with a flick of his finger, Zhao Fu's body shook. His storage space automatically opened a crack, and an invitation letter flew out. After careful inspection, it was clear that it was another fake invitation letter. The Snow Dragon Sovereign said indifferently, If it's a fake, you can say that you were framed, but what about two? What's more, this one obviously has your own aura in it. Unless you personally refined it, such a situation would not occur. This time, Zhao Fu could not explain himself. He wanted to harm Shui Yu as well, so he made an extra one. Now, not only did he not harm Shui Yu, but he also made himself unable to explain himself. The Snow Dragon Sovereign's face returned to indifference. Not only did you use a fake invitation letter, you also refined one. Branch Pavilion Master Zhao, how do you think I should deal with you? Swish, a flash of light appeared. It was a middle-aged woman. She was not handsome, slightly chubby, but her face was as old as a 10,000-year-old tree bark. Her eyes were filled with indescribable vicissitudes. Snow Dragon Sovereign, can you give me face and spare him this once? The middle-aged woman said. The pressure that her appearance gave everyone was not the slightest bit inferior to the Snow Dragon Emperor. The Snow Dragon Sovereign said indifferently, Blissful Sovereign, I can give you face, but who will give me face? If I let this go, in the future, I will not be able to deal with such a daring person. The Blissful Sovereign said, That's easy. She glanced at Zhao Fu and instantly heard Zhao Fu's shrill scream. Then he clutched his chest and rolled on the ground. Waves of divine energy seemed to have lost their source of sustenance, leaking out of his body in a frenzy. That was a sign that his cultivation was being destroyed. The snow dragon, Sovereign, restrained the coldness in her eyes and coldly snorted. Pavilion Master Zhao, you should be glad that an emperor is pleading for you. Today, I will only destroy your cultivation. I hope you take care of yourself. Suyu was slightly regretful that Zhao Fu was not dead. However, Zhao Fu had made many enemies during his tenure as a branch pavilion master. Now that his cultivation was destroyed, for safety's sake, he could only hole up in the headquarters of the Star Pavilion and live out the rest of his days. This was retribution. Thank you, Snow Dragon Sovereign, for your mercy. The blissful sovereign grabbed Zhao Fu and turned to leave. Before he left, he cast a meaningful glance at Suyu. Suyu could not help but shudder. For a moment, he had the illusion that his entire body was seen through. It was as if the blissful sovereign had seen through everything. Fortunately, she did not pursue the matter further. Suyu was secretly awestruck. If the cabinet master is already so powerful, then how powerful is the chief cabinet master, who has been hiding his strength all this while? Exactly. Could it be that a divine technique had turned the tide, purifying trillions of corpses and saving the sea of constellations? Suyu was really interested in meeting such a legendary being. All right, everyone, the ancient dream altar is about to arrive. Please be prepared. The Snow Dragon Sovereign said. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Almost immediately after she finished speaking, the heavens and the earth began to hum silently. It was as if something enormous was slowly falling, suppressing the heavens and the earth. Suyu fixed his gaze on the depths of the heavens and the earth. In the deepest part of the heavens and the earth, there was a huge altar that was faintly discernible. The altar was dilapidated and ancient. The lines and patterns on it were already in disarray. A corner of the altar was about to fall. At first glance, the altar was shaped like a pentagon, with strange lines in the center. Of course, that was from afar. When the altar descended completely, it was impossible to see the whole thing. Even the lines that could be clearly seen just now were magnified into stretches of snowy plains, valleys, and so on. Those who were deep within would never have imagined that the snowy plains and valleys were actually the lines of the altar. The size of the altar was beyond imagination. The Snow Dragon Sovereign stood up, his eyes shining with divine light. He waved his sleeves, and the majestic power of the desolation cast 5 heavenly ladders, extending to the 5 corners of the altar. In the 5 regions, there are insights left behind by the Pathmaster. What you can obtain from them is entirely up to you, the Snow Dragon Sovereign said. Finally, only the 10 strongest people can pass through the enchantments of the 5 regions and enter the central region of the altar. There is a treasure that I have placed there. That is the blood that I found in the past. The blood of the Pathmaster. Let's see who's the strongest Sky Pride King among all of you who can obtain the ultimate treasure. The words blood of the Pathmaster shook everyone's heart like thunder. Even Suyu was moved. If he could obtain the blood of the Pathmaster, the Dragon of Destiny would become even more brilliant. At that time, he would obtain new special abilities. Suyu's eyes were filled with excitement. However, it was not only because of the blood of the Pathmaster. It was also because of the seal of law on his palm, pointing to that region from afar. Chapter 1673. All those who have participated in the ancient dream altar in the past, retreat now. Swish, swish, swish. One by one, figures exited the great hall, including the ravenous wolf star. He cupped his hands at Suyu. I'll wait for you outside. This was the rule of the ancient dream altar. Anyone who entered once would be recognized by the ancient dream altar. If they entered again, they would be rejected. Suyu said, wait for me here. Soon, those who remained were the invitees who had never set foot on the ancient dream altar. Go! The Snow Dragon King rolled up his sleeves, and everyone present was swept up by a boundless power of desolation onto the 5 great steps. Whether it was intentional or not, the Heartless Saber Emperor, Empress Ziwei, and Shueguanin, the three heaven rulers, were assigned to different steps. The rest of the people were randomly assigned. When Suyu's feet touched the ground, he had already landed on the steps of the southeast region. Looking around, there were a few familiar figures, including Mu Songhai and Bai Shuejian from the Starry Pavilion. Bai Shuejian seemed to be looking for someone. He looked around, but when his search was futile, his face showed a hint of disappointment. Suyu retracted his gaze and looked up at the sky, staring at the incomparably huge ancient altar. Liyu's eyes flickered with shock. Rumor has it that the altar revolves above the land of the extreme north all year round, returning here once every 100 years without exception. Suyu said, so before the Snow Dragon King, no one had ever discovered the existence of this altar? Shaking his head, Liu said, a long time ago, the land of the extreme north was a very barren area. Very few martial artists came to explore. It is not surprising that the altar has not been discovered. Is that so? Suyu nodded. He followed the rushing crowd and climbed up the stairs formed by the Desolation Power. At the end of the steps was an entrance that could allow one person to pass through. It also had the ability to transport people. Once inside, they would be separated. Suyu said to Liu, I can only take you up to here. Take care. Liu calmly bowed. Brother Shui, you too. The two of them entered one after another. In the space transport, Suyu faintly felt a powerful wave sweep through his body. After a slight discomfort in his chest, there was something there. Suyu was secretly vigilant. After the space transport was completed, he checked his surroundings for safety and immediately looked down at his chest. In the end, a white altar mark was imprinted on his body. After the reduction in production, other than positioning, recording the user's injuries, and fighting with others, the imprint did no other damage. Only then did Suyu feel slightly relieved. I just don't know how I can enter the central area. Suyu thought to himself. The Snow Dragon Emperor had said that only the top 10 experts had the qualifications to enter the central region. How would the ranking be determined? Dong. Suddenly, the sound of a bell echoed in the sky. An incomparably huge image suddenly flashed. A line of information appeared on the screen. Luo Wu eliminated. The screen also showed the scene of Luo Wu's death. There was a thumb-sized hole between his eyebrows, which was caused by a powerful sword chi. Not only had it pierced through his head, but it had also destroyed his soul. Suyu observed that Luo Wu's chest also had a white mark of the sacrificial altar. However, with his death, the imprint on the altar cracked and gradually dissipated. Bai Shuejian ranked first. Another line of information appeared on the screen. At the same time, Bai Shuejian's image appeared. He held a long, round sword with a wooden stick in his hand. Divine blood dripped from the tip of the sword. The imprint of the sacrificial altar on his chest had an additional black line. Bai Shuejian grinned at the image. Rabbits, if you don't want to die, hide from me. Then the image stopped abruptly. Suyu stroked it, understanding something. Killing one person will raise one's ranking. The higher the cultivation of the person I kill, the higher my ranking will be, right? Suyu analyzed the situation in his mind. Otherwise, if there were no restrictions on cultivation, wouldn't a level 1 Cavern World Venerable be ranked first if he killed all the participants below him? Wouldn't he be stronger than a top silver overlord like Bai Shuejian? Obviously, the ancient dream altar would not have such an obvious loophole. Moreover, Suyu stared at the disappearing image. Do I have to kill my opponent to raise my ranking? Not necessarily. If it was such a cruel killing game, how could the various forces agree? Why would they be willing to send their elites to participate? Most likely, Bai Shuejian was killing to establish his authority. Beep! The imprint of the sacrificial altar on Suyu's chest suddenly moved. At the same time, a faint beeping sound came from 10,000 miles away in the southwest direction. This was the mutual reaction between the imprints of the sacrificial altar. When two participants were within 10,000 miles of each other, the two imprints would sense each other. Suyu could discover the other party, and the other party could also discover Suyu. With a sweep of his eyes, Suyu clearly saw a level 1 Cavern World Venerable rushing over. He had discovered Su Yu and was still attacking him. There was only one purpose. After 10 breaths, he was 100 miles away from Su Yu. With the strength of a level 1 cavern world venerable, he could clearly observe the other party and the situation around him from such a distance. His eyes kept turning, and after making sure that there was no one around Su Yu, he cupped his fists and said, "I am Wang Yuan of the Raging Fire faction. This is my first time entering the Ancient Dream Altar, so I don't know the rules. I wonder if I can form a team with you so that we can look out for each other?" Su Yu said calmly, "I am used to being alone, sorry." He moved his feet and walked towards the southwest direction. There, near the central area, there should be more people there. Wait. Wang Yuan rushed forward, and his speed suddenly doubled. He said, "I mean no harm," although he said that, his palm was swallowing and spitting out a purple mist. With a wave of his palm, the purple mist swept across a large area, like a tornado. Within 1,000 miles, all the precious plants were poisoned by the purple mist, and all of them withered and died. Among them, there were even 1,000-year-old plants that were poisonous themselves. The toxicity of the purple mist was evident. Su Yu's eyes were calm. He slowly turned around and said, "I gave you a chance to leave, but you want to stay. Fine, I will test it on you." Su Yu did not move, but a flash of bloodlight shot out from the 9-jade spiritual pearl. The bloodlight shot out like a sharp arrow, carrying with it a terrifying gust of wind, and rolled back the purple mist. Wang Yuan was shocked. What? A true emperor-level divine weapon? Without saying a word, Wang Yuan took out a greenish-white bone and crushed it. The powder of the bone condensed into a shield in the air. The defense of the shield was extraordinary, comparable to the bronze overlord. However, such a defense might be useful against opponents of the same level, but it was not enough against the Azura sword. Puff! The shield was easily cut open like a piece of tofu. The Azura sword slashed down with irresistible force from above. From the looks of it, Wang Yuan would definitely be cut in half. "Stop. I admit defeat." Wang Yuan was shocked. He tore off the brand on his chest and threw it on the ground. A strong wave descended invisibly between the Azura sword and Wang Yuan. The Shurasek sword was bounced off by the ripples. Wang Yuan smiled bitterly. "You hid your strength well. I lost." He had wanted to defeat someone to increase his ranking. Who would have thought that his first opponent would be so terrifying and defeat him directly? The wave then entangled Wang Yuan and sent him out of the space. Su Yu took the opportunity to ask, "With your cultivation, it should be difficult for you to enter the top 10. Why are you doing such meaningless things instead of focusing on finding rare treasures?" Wang Yuan was stunned. "You don't know? Taking someone else's brand can pay with your life." "Pay with my life?" Su Yu cupped his fists. "Brother, please explain." Wang Yuan said, "After taking someone else's brand, if you are defeated, you will not be sent out immediately. If someone tries to kill you, the brand will also become a protective talisman. Just like what happened to me just now, the more brands you get, the greater your life-saving talisman." The Ancient Dream Altar's setting did not allow killing. Unless the disparity in strength between the two parties was too great, and the Ancient Dream Altar could not react in time, like the person killed by Shuejian. The brand could save one's life, and that was not just for show. What was even better was that the brand could offset the number of defeats. An accidental defeat would not cause one to be sent out of the Ancient Dream Altar. Generally speaking, the stronger the strong, the weaker the weak. The elimination mechanism was very fair. Su Yu picked up the brand that Wang Yuan had thrown. Suddenly, the brand turned into a black line and returned to Su Yu's brand. Dong, just like by Shuejian, a distant bell rang in the sky. Wang Yuan is eliminated. Su Yu is ranked second. At the same time, an image appeared. Wang Yuan was swept out of the Ancient Dream Altar, and Su Yu was standing there unscathed. The entire area was in an uproar. The Viper King, Wang Yuan? This person is known as one of the most difficult to deal with among his peers. His reputation is so resounding that many bronze overlord old monsters are afraid of him. Who is that Su Yu? From his expression, he seems to be able to defeat him effortlessly. TSK. Every time the ancient dream altar opens, there will always be some geniuses who are not famous. What a pity. What a pity. The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. He doesn't even have the strength of an overlord, and yet he dares to show his face in the ancient dream altar. He will only die faster. Somewhere, the two strong bronze overlords stared at the image, and the corners of their mouths curled into a sneer. Big brother, if we kill him, it will be equivalent to killing two people. If we meet him, we should just kill him. It's just two. It's not worth our time to look for him. Let's talk about it when we meet him. Getting the brand had its pros and cons. Although it was a life-saving talisman, it was more likely to be targeted than ordinary people. Suyu was completely unaware that the person he had killed had a little fame. He had become a well-known figure in the southwest region. He stayed where he was and deliberately waited for a while. He hoped that the fluctuations of the battle just now would attract some covetous people. However, the participants were too cautious. Suyu was unharmed, and no one dared to challenge him. Sighing, Suyu tiptoed and leaped toward the southwest on foot. Dong! Another bell chime rang out. Li Jian is eliminated. Bai Xuejian is ranked first. Looking up, another cold corpse appeared in the image. He had killed again and again to deter everyone in the entire area. Chapter 1674. Suyu traveled for 3 days. During these 3 days, almost every 2 hours, there would be a message that someone had been eliminated. Among them, Bai Xuejian's message accounted for half of them. In just 3 days, he had defeated 20 people. Apart from 2 who had escaped death and were saved by the ancient dream altar, the rest had lost their lives at Bai Xuejian's hands. At this point, everyone's fear of Bai Xuejian had reached its peak. If they had encountered someone else, they might have been able to resist for a while, waiting for the ancient dream altar to save them. But if they encounter Bai Xuejian, they would most likely die. During these 3 days, Suyu could still vaguely sense a few restless characters approaching him. But after 3 days, whenever they sensed someone, they would immediately flee. They did not even think twice, afraid that they would encounter Bai Xuejian. At this moment, he was like a demon. Anyone who saw him would be afraid. As for Suyu, he could not be bothered to chase those who did not initiate an attack during these 3 days. Their cultivation levels were too weak. Even if he killed them, it would not raise his ranking much. Because of this, Suyu's ranking had plummeted in these 3 days. He had fallen from 2nd place to 20th place. Many people's reverence for him had faded with time and the fall of his ranking. Landing in front of a mountain peak, Suyu opened his eyes and looked out. In the distant horizon, there was a ring-shaped valley. It was extremely huge, about half the size of the entire southwest region. The terrain inside was extremely complicated. Even though past participants had explored it hundreds of times, there were still many places that no one had set foot in due to the harsh conditions. There were extremely rare treasures that were as old as 10,000 years old. If he could find them, he would be able to sell them for a shockingly high price. Moreover, there were traces left behind by the Pathmaster in each of the 5 great regions of the altar. According to rumors, the traces of the Pathmaster were very scattered. They were not concentrated in one place, but could appear anywhere. For example, if you walked past a tree, there might be footprints left behind by the Pathmaster on the tree. From the footprints, you might be able to sense a certain charm of the Pathmaster. Another example, if you randomly kicked a stone, there might be the Pathmaster's handwriting on the stone. In the past, many unexpected opportunities had happened. They had inadvertently found the traces of the Pathmaster. Without exception, those who discovered the traces of a Tao Lord would obtain unimaginably high rewards, and breaking through their bottlenecks in a single night could be seen everywhere. There was even a proud son of heaven who was stuck at the bottleneck of a silver overlord who discovered a letter left behind by a Taoist master. From the handwriting, he comprehended the laws left behind by the Taoist master and actually broke through to become a glazed crystal overlord overnight. From then on, he became an overlord. All sorts of legends gave the gorge a mysterious sheen, and it caused the participants to be like moths flying into a flame as they converged towards the gorge to search for traces of their own downlords. Because of this, there were many experts who had gathered here with the ambition to fight for a higher ranking. Almost all the top experts had gathered here. This was the perfect place that Suyu had been looking for. Everything begins here, Suyu said as he stared at the invisible central region. He clenched his fists tightly. Just as Suyu was about to move forward, he unexpectedly sensed that at the border where the valley intersected with the periphery, a large wave of imprints had appeared. There were over 100 of them. Suyu could not help but be shocked. There were only 5,000 people participating in the ancient dream altar. If they were distributed to every region, there would only be about 1,000 of them. It was rare to see 100 people gathered in one region. Something must have happened there. Or rather, it must be a very special region. With a shift of thought, Suyu flew over. Scanning the distance, he was shocked to find that there was a whole group of people there. They were surrounding a dilapidated temple, and they were very emotional. Suyu used the heavenly eyes to observe from afar. He found a person sitting in the dilapidated temple. There was a series of antiques placed in front of the person. There were leaves, gravel, fragments of weapons, and remnants of books. There are only 10 traces of the downlords left. The 10 friends with the highest cultivation can use your imprints to exchange for them, the person shouted. Suyu was shocked. Selling the traces of the downlords? Moreover, with such a large amount of money? Moreover, according to the person's tone, these were the last 10. He should have sold many of them before this. How could he find so many traces of the downlords alone? With curiosity, Suyu observed again and could not help but burst into laughter. The traces of the downlords were indeed authentic, but they were all recorded in the past. In other words, they had all been used by others before. One could only imagine how much value was left in them. This person was bold and unconstrained, collecting the traces of the downlords at a low price and exchanging imprints effortlessly at the ancient dream altar. Without shedding a drop of blood, he had defeated many strong men who fought to the death. However, this person had so many traces of the downlords. Was he not afraid of being targeted? But when he noticed the person's appearance, Suyu could not help but laugh. He was none other than the youth who had taken out the nine-eyed evil duck's inner elixir at the birthday banquet, Huang Fulayang. The ravenous wolf, Star, had evaluated him. None of the young talents present were a match for him. Apart from Shui Guanyin, Empress Sui, the merciless Saber Emperor, and Bai Shuejian, no one was a match for him. Among those present, the highest cultivation was no higher than the Bronze Overlord. Anyone who had designs on him would die a horrible death. I'll trade. The only Bronze Overlord present, after weighing his options, gritted his teeth and chose to trade. It was not that he had no ambition, but he was frightened by the intense fighting. In just 3 days, no less than 100 people had been eliminated. Among them, Bai Shuejian alone had killed 18 people. According to his estimation, more than half of the people would be eliminated in less than 10 days. The abilities of the Bronze Overlord were indeed powerful in the outside world, respected by trillions of living creatures. But here, he could only barely keep his life. If he encountered Bai Shuejian, he would not even have a chance to survive. So, rather than taking the risk, he might as well get a Daylord's trace and leave. Anyway, he had never expected to enter the central area. He would be satisfied if he could get a Daylord's trace and escape unscathed. Without hesitation, he traded for the remnant scroll, then handed over the seal and chose to be eliminated. The rest of the people fought over it. In less than 10 breaths, the remaining 10 Daylord's traces had all been traded. The Daylord's traces have been sold out. Goodbye, everyone. The youth leaped out of the dilapidated temple. Everyone chased after him, but after a few breaths, they lost track of him. All of them were filled with regret. Suyu smiled faintly and retracted his heavenly eyes. He was about to leave when the seal on his chest suddenly sensed something. There was a participant nearby. To be precise, it was 1,000 feet behind Suyu. Suyu's heart was in turmoil. 1,000 feet behind him in an instant? This person's strength was too deep and unfathomable. Even so, Suyu still had his own confidence. He turned around calmly. Without looking at the person, he already knew who it was. He said, "Your Excellency, why are you looking for me instead of fooling them?" The person who had come was none other than Huang Fulayong. He smiled. "You can say that I'm fooling them, but I'm saving them, aren't I? Since ancient times, there have been very few people who have found the Daylord's traces. People only paid attention to the lucky ones. Who would have thought that the bones of those who died along the way would be piled up like a mountain? They will most likely die along the way. Instead of that, it would be better to send them away. Although the Daylord's traces have been used, they still have some value. They did not come away empty-handed. In other words, they are luckier than most people." So he was left speechless by his words. He was the only one who could bluff people in such a dignified manner and make it sound so noble and great. He put his hands in his sleeves and looked up at the heavenly eyes that had yet to dissipate. He said in amazement, "Interesting. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary use of space. But when I sense it carefully, I can sense the traces of time, soul, and life. Out of the 8 great path profound meanings for have been gathered. It's incredible." So he was shocked again. The heavenly eyes had once integrated time, soul, and life. But only once. This person could capture the traces left behind. His remarkable abilities made Suyu wary. Huang Fulayong retracted his gaze and looked at Suyu curiously. "I thought it was some powerful expert who came to visit me. So it's you." He looked at the ice coffin on Suyu's back and said, "Are you Shuiyu from the birthday banquet? Your appearance and aura have changed, and even your cultivation has changed drastically. But the ice coffin has not changed." Suyu said calmly, "I'm honored that you still remember me." Huang Fulayong waved his hand. "Don't belittle yourself. I've seen countless heaven rulers in the sea of constellations, but none of them can compare to you. I have faith in you." When he finished speaking, he waved his hand and leaped into the valley. So you didn't know if he should change to another place to continue bluffing or prepare to kill. Suyu stood where he was, staring at him as he pondered. His tone was too arrogant, but he didn't give off an arrogant and despotic feeling, unlike by Shuejian and the heartless Saber Emperor. Who was this person? It was as if he had appeared out of thin air overnight. He had never appeared before, but once he did, his name spread far and wide. Looking at the latest ranking displayed above his head, Huang Fulayong was in the top 5. In the past 3 days, Suyu had noticed. Unlike the others, his ranking was very stable. He was still in 5th place. The 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place had been replaced by more than 10 people, but only he remained unmoved. Interesting. If there's a chance, I'd like to challenge him. Suyu curled his lips and leaped into the valley. This place was the outskirts of the valley. The forest was dense and the mist was thick. Moreover, the mist was very special. It could swallow the soul energy that was released, making it impossible for people to see far. Everyone's vision was no more than 1,000 feet away. Suyu stood in the mist, his smile deepening. This was the best place to hunt, but it depended on the hunter's methods. Suddenly, the mark on Suyu's chest vibrated slightly. Someone had appeared. The difference was that the mark's sensing ability was greatly weakened, perhaps due to being restricted by the mist. The mark only reacted when the person appeared 2,000 feet away. If the other party was a bird startled by the mere twang of a bough, he would have retreated in fear. But he did not retreat. Instead, he rushed forward. Before the person appeared, a delicate and pitiful cry for help could be heard. "Who is in front? Don't attack. I'm seriously injured. I won't hurt you." The mist swayed, and a pretty woman stumbled out. Her clothes were covered in blood, and there were a few hideous scratch marks on her abdomen. She looked exceptionally terrifying. Her life force was very weak, as if she would die at any moment. "Who are you?" Suyu asked. The woman had a pained expression, and she fell to the ground. Her face was filled with a pleading expression. "Little brother, please help me. Heal my injuries." Suyu was indifferent. Her forehead was filled with beads of sweat, and her delicate body could not stop twitching. She said pitifully, "Little brother, as long as you are willing to heal my injuries, I will promise you anything." Her body twitched, and her clothes were in a mess, revealing a shocking snow-white chest. Coupled with her exceptionally pretty face, her pitiful and pleading expression was extremely attractive. Chapter 1675. The veins on the pretty woman's forehead twitched violently. All women, even if they stepped into the martial path, were very concerned about their age. This was especially the case when they failed to seduce a young man and were rejected by him for being too old. Yes, I didn't think it through. I'm not a slut. I'm just helpless. If you are willing to help me, I'm willing to give you the trace of a pathmaster. I won't go back on my word, the woman begged. However, Suyu didn't move an inch. He just stood there motionlessly with his arms crossed. The pretty woman was prepared for this. She took out a decayed wooden carving from her sleeve, which had the trace of a pathmaster on it. However, anyone with good eyesight could see that the wooden carving had been transferred by many people and had lost its spirituality. Therefore, its value must be very limited. Oh, how can I help you? Suyu asked. The pretty woman said happily, help me heal my injuries. My injuries are too severe, and I can't use my divine power. Use my divine power? Suyu nodded. Okay. As he walked over, the pretty woman's lips curled into a strange smile. However, the pretty woman was startled when Suyu stopped 500 feet away from her. Little brother, are you going back on your word? The pretty woman asked. Suyu shook his head and said, I just thought of a story, and I don't know if you want to hear it. Tell a story? At this time, the pretty woman couldn't wait to reach out her hand and pull him over. Danby asked her start, come over here. However, she was still very patient. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little brother, why don't you heal my injuries first? I could tell you the story later. Suyu said stubbornly, I have a bad habit. Whenever I think of a story, I don't want to tell it. Since you don't want to hear it, I'll leave. The pretty woman stopped him hurriedly. Wait, I'll listen. Can't I listen? Only then did Suyu sit down and tell the story with a serious expression. Once upon a time, there was a temple on a mountain. There were two monks in the temple, an old monk and a young monk. One day, the old monk said, Suyu told a story that was as tasteless as chewing wax. No, it was full of ups and downs. The story was magnificent, and after an hour, there was still no conclusion. The pretty woman's face turned green as she said, Then, what's the ending of the story? Suyu said, In the end, both monks died of thirst. Just when the pretty woman heaved a sigh of relief and rejoiced that the two monks had died, Suyu continued, Then, two new monks came. One was an old monk, while the other was a young monk. One day, the old monk said, Enough. The woman interrupted. Her patience had been worn to the limit. What was worse was that her injuries would not wait for her. Her serious injuries were fake, but in order to make it look real, her wounds were real. Suyu kept talking, and the story went on for an hour. She had to listen to him patiently, but she couldn't heal herself, which caused her divine blood to be continuously lost. Sigh, since you don't like my story, it seems like we aren't fated people. Suyu sighed as he stood up and retreated. Wait, the pretty woman called out to Suyu hurriedly, then said with a smile, Can you change the story? I'm very willing to listen to you. Suyu stopped, turned around, and said, Fine, I'll tell you a new story. Once upon a time, there was a young man named Suyu. He walked into a dense fog and met an injured ant. She begged him to heal her. Suyu agreed and helped her heal her. However, it turned out that there was a powerful binding formation under the ant's feet, and Suyu died carelessly. Suyu looked at her and said with a faint smile, Aunt, what do you think of this story? The pretty woman's sorrowful expression disappeared, and it was replaced by anger. Obviously, Suyu had known that she had set up a trap. However, he pretended to be ignorant and played tricks on her. The pretty woman touched her abdomen with her palm, and her injuries healed instantly. At the same time, she waved her palm, and 3 small flags flew out from the soil in front of her. The flags were a simple formation board of some kind of formation. Brat, you are dead. The pretty woman, who had been tricked, was livid. You call me aunt? I won't forgive you. Black lines appeared on Suyu's forehead. Her focus was too unimaginable. Little silver in the northwest direction, 2,010 feet. The pretty woman shouted suddenly. Swoosh! As the sound of something tearing through the air echoed in the air, a silver-white arrow pierced through the fog and shot towards Su Yu's head with great precision. The arrow contained the full force of the bronze overlord, and coupled with a high-grade arrow, its power was extraordinary. At such a close distance, and with such a sudden attack, an ordinary level 1 Cavern World Senior would not be able to escape. Su Yu's face was calm, and a floating space appeared on the surface of his body. Swoosh! Swoosh! The arrow hit the surface of Su Yu's body and was automatically swallowed by the thin layer of space. The next moment, the arrow shot out from the space behind Su Yu. Coincidentally, the direction of the arrow was the pretty woman. How could she have been prepared for the arrow that was shot at Su Yu to be shot at herself? Soft seal of all waters. Although the pretty woman was a level 1 Cavern World Senior, her battle reflexes were extremely strong, and she subconsciously used a defensive divine technique. However, this arrow contained the full force of the bronze overlord. No matter how amazing the beautiful woman's defense was, she could not completely resist it. Puff! There was a dull sound of flesh being pierced, and the arrow mercilessly pierced the beautiful woman's abdomen. With a muffled groan, the beautiful woman fell to the ground. Her injury was not serious, and she immediately tried to get up. But at that moment, a touch of space power came and swept her away. The next moment, she appeared in front of Su Yu's arm. Su Yu clenched his palm and held her neck. The palm also contained a powerful force of death, which seeped into her body from her neck. With just a thought from Su Yu, the force of death could be activated and turn her into a pile of ashes in an instant. The beautiful woman noticed the strangeness in her body, and she was horrified. She said in panic, "The force of death. Are you from the Corpse Clan?" Su Yu did not say a word, squinting at the fog around him. The two of them were very smart. They cooperated with each other. The beautiful woman was responsible for luring the enemy. It would be best if she could lure the enemy. If he couldn't, then the bronze overlord in the dark would unleash a destructive attack. Even the bronze overlord would suffer a great loss, let alone the level 1 Cavern World Senior. The most amazing thing was that the hiding place of the bronze overlord was really exquisite. It happened to be 2,000 feet away, making it impossible for anyone to detect his presence. The beautiful woman acted as his eyes, informing him of the enemy's specific location. The combination of the two swords was a good way to hunt. Seeing Su Yu's expression, the beautiful woman thought that he was very afraid. So she said, "Boy, let go of me immediately and remove the force of death from your body. Otherwise, you will be hunted down by my companions endlessly." As if responding to her, an arrow was immediately shot out from the fog. Without thinking, Su Yu pushed the beautiful woman in front of him. Puff! There was another dull sound, and the beautiful woman was shot again. She stared at Su Yu, almost going crazy. She had seen people torture beautiful women, but she had never seen someone torture beautiful women like animals. Su Yu looked at her and used his soul to transmit his voice to her. "Every word you say will add another arrow to your body." The bronze overlord was also in the fog and could not sense Su Yu's presence. The beautiful woman's voice provided him with the best location. The beautiful woman gritted her teeth and gasped, but she did not dare to cause any more trouble. She felt the urge to cry. She had killed as many as 7 or 8 participants in the past 3 days, but the boy in front of her was the most difficult to deal with. She watched Su Yu's actions quietly. Her companions were her only hope of survival. She only hoped that if this continued, this boy would choose to compromise. Unfortunately, Su Yu did not get what she wanted. Su Yu picked up a small stone from the ground and shot it 200 feet to his side. Just as the stone fell to the ground and made a sound, an arrow shot out from the fog. Seeing this, the beautiful woman's heart thumped. It's over. As expected, the moment the arrow was shot, Su Yu summoned the Azura sword with his left hand and swung it. Dark Night Meteor Thrust. Hundreds of flame-like flowers bloomed in the fog. A blood-curdling scream was heard. Someone had been hit, but Su Yu did not rush over immediately. Instead, he used the demonic moon revolving style again. Puff. This time, the dull sound of a person being hit could be heard. A woman's muffled groan was heard. Obviously, the other party was an extremely astute woman. After shooting the arrow, she immediately changed her position, so Su Yu's Dark Knight Meteor thrust did not hit her. The other party was also extremely clever, pretending to be injured. If Su Yu had been fooled and rushed over, he would have been met with an arrow. Fortunately, Su Yu was cautious. He did not stop at the first strike, but shot a second arrow that had a wider range. Only then did he really hit his opponent. Su Yu tiptoed, stepping on the Azura sword and piercing into the fog. Suddenly, the other party's fluctuations appeared within his sensing range. He flashed over and saw a 19-year-old girl in a light yellow blouse and a pink dress. She was covering her head and wiping away her tears. Her chest had been cut by the arc-shaped sword energy, and her wrist had been severely injured. So he was slightly surprised. The 19-year-old bronze overlord was also an extremely outstanding young lady. Su Yu's eyes flashed, and he pointed his sword at the girl's chest. The ancient Dream Altar's brand appeared on her body. As many as 9 brands were clearly reflected in his eyes. 9, not bad. Su Yu stabbed with his sword. The ancient Dream Altar sensed that she was in danger and immediately deflected the Azura sword, saving her life. But because of that, one of the black lines in her brand was missing. Su Yu stabbed again. The moment the girl was saved by the ancient Dream Altar, she immediately retaliated. She drew her bow and arrow at close range and quickly shot an arrow. At such a close distance, no matter how fast one's reflexes were, it was impossible to block it. But Su Yu did not need to block it. Yin and Yang energies appeared on top of his head, and his body instantly teleported away. Of course, the beautiful woman remained where she was. The ear-piercing sound of flesh being torn apart could be heard again. The beautiful woman forced a smile. "Little Silver, I'm fine. I can still hold on." "Oh, then I'll shoot him again." The girl drew her bow and aimed at Su Yu in a daze. "Don't." The beautiful woman's eyelids twitched. She stared at Su Yu for a moment, then sighed. "Little Silver, run away. I've met a powerful person, and I can't escape. You should be able to escape by yourself, oh." The girl picked up her bow and arrow and fled without looking back. The beautiful woman was speechless. Su Yu was equally speechless.